Welcome to Raging Bullets, a DC Comics fan podcast, episode 468. We tackle the first 2 weeks of Rebirth issues. Welcome to Raging Bullets. I'm Sean Whalen, drnorge. I'm joined as always by my co-host Jim. Sean was salivating so much I had to get an umbrella. So says the sensei of the Whatnot Segulin, the Duke of You-Know, and the elder statesman of the podcast.
How's it going, eh?
Good, Jim. Sorry you had to grab galoshes. This episode, we are talking the first 9 issues of Rebirth. We're going to talk Batman Rebirth number 1, Superman Rebirth 1, Green Arrow Rebirth 1, Green Lanterns Rebirth 1, Action Comics Rebirth 1, Detective Comics Rebirth 1, Wonder Woman Rebirth 1, Aquaman Rebirth 1, Flash Rebirth 1, Ambush Bug Rebirth. Oh, sorry, that wasn't one. We are talking all of them this episode, the first 2 weeks of them. We got really excited and are going to be delivering that to you. We are proud members of the Comics Podcast Network, the League of Comic Book Podcasts, and the InfiniteComics.com podcast partnership. We are sponsored this episode by DCBService.com and InStockTrades.com. Jim, what is going on over at DCBService.com that we should know about?
Hey, we got bundles. They're really doing some great job with the bundles for DCBS. I want to make sure I acknowledge all of them this time. We've got 3 Rebirth separate bundle packages, and here's the cool part. Each one of these bundles packed 50% off. You've got the dual monthly, the twice per month bundle, you've got the new bundle, you've got the reoccurring Rebirth bundle. Thank you. But also, as I said, all of the bundles are going to get talked about. They're continuing their Vertigo support. All 8 Vertigo titles, 50% off the bundle on that one. Thank you. Keep buying them, Vertigo. Thank you. Keep giving me these bundles. But also, one other thing, every so often I do mention this, but they do some great variant cover bundles. And this month we're getting all 43 of the DC Rebirth variant issues, 45% off of the variant cover. So if you're a variant cover collector like I am, right here is a great way for you to get your covers, get your variants. And I'm actually, as long as they keep giving me these bundles, I'm going to keep getting the variant covers because that's absolutely awesome. But there's something else I got to mention. I got to bring this up. I saw this when I was doing my ordering. I clicked, yes, I have to own this, and it cracked me up. Based off of the Batman, the animated series, Christmas with the Joker. Yes, they're taking an action figure of the Batman animated series Joker. They've given him a nice little kind of Charlie Brownish tree, some candy canes, a little elf, variations on the action figure that you can do. But I'm looking at this thing. I clicked, yes, I have to have this. It's 32% off, only $19.04. For me, this right here is Christmas decoration. Thank you, DCBS.
I couldn't agree with you more, actually. That one was really exciting. How much were those bundles off, Jim?
50% off of all of the Rebirth bundles, 45% off of the variant cover bundle, and 50% off the Vertigo bundle. They're really supporting these bundles. They're really giving you a chance to experience all of the DC Rebirth.
Joking aside, I want to talk about InStockTrades.com. One of the things I'm really loving over there, have you been picking up any of these omnibuses, the Silver Age omnibuses? They got that Supergirl one. It's 50% off, only $37.50. It's these omnibuses are collecting just mass amounts of issues in these great hardcover collections, and they're really high quality. They're really well put together. I've been collecting these because I'm just really enjoying having mass amounts of issues in this really nice special format. And the Silver Age Supergirl stuff, I've read some of it. That was a lot of stuff I got as a kid in flea markets, and I didn't get all of them. Obviously, there were very broken lots of them, and sometimes you get them with like the cover or 2 or 3 pages missing, but I ate every bit of that stuff up because, so this is going to be kind of like me revisiting my childhood, but also being able to take a look at things I've never seen before. InStockTrades.com does a really great job of helping me fill in my gaps and keep myself at a budget, which is hard to do. I know we always talk about on the show where we seem to have like this limitless budget. We don't. I have a time budget, but I do have a financial budget on this. I try to keep myself in a pretty protected range. The nice part about those two sites working together is I can stay pretty much in my range and still get the books that I want, which I really love. When they're releasing these omnibuses, that for me is pretty necessary. 50% off is the difference between getting them and not getting them. So I want to thank DCB Service and InStockTrades.com for continuing to support our show. James, what kind of a podcast are we?
Raging Bullets is a spoiler podcast. We go in depth into plotline, story twists, and whatnot of the comics we're discussing on today's show. So, if you ever read the books, you may want to come back later so you can better enjoy the show.
Let's talk some comics.
He is called Hawkman. His gauntlets possess awesome powers.
Jim, all right, so since the last time we talked about the Rebirth special. We haven't had a chance to talk about any of the issues that have kicked out. We've had 9 of them now. We're going to talk about the first 2 weeks. And just to give you an overview of what we're going to talk about, we're going to talk about Batman Rebirth #1, Superman Rebirth #1, Green Arrow Rebirth #1, Green Lantern's Rebirth #1, Action Comics Rebirth #1, Detective Comics Rebirth #1, Wonder Woman Rebirth #1, Aquaman Rebirth #1, and Flash Rebirth #1. And we're going to kind of talk casually about the first 2 weeks of this event. It's really, though, a complete rejuvenation of the line that they're doing gradually and targeted. Jim, what are your initial impressions? We've read 9 of these issues now. Do you like the direction that they're going in? Do you have any concerns? Did you like some issues more than the other? We'll get into specifics, I think, as we have the conversation, but as a general overview, where are you at 9 after having read 9 of these?
Well, I'm doing a happy dance right now, and I am actually literally dancing right now. I'm doing my little bob and weave, my little happy dance. I'm very, very satisfied with where this is going. There are a couple, of course, there's always going to be a couple issues that I think are better than others, and others that have me going, okay, this I can see it building, and I'm like wondering where this is going to go. But as a general rule, this Rebirth is doing a really cool stuff for this universe and doing some neat stuff with these characters. And it's not throwing out what was before, it's building on that. It's giving us some additional information, kind of the Paul Harvey, now we're learning the rest of the story. And especially, there's been a couple of these titles, Batman and Superman specifically, where I was like, man, I was really digging it leading up to it. And then you're like, oh, what the heck? And then Detective Comics was another one that really had me. I was high-fiving myself as I was reading Detective Comics, and just the Wonder Woman issue, another one where I was just like, oh my god, that is outstanding. So Action Comics, Superman, Detective Comics, Batman, Wonder Woman had me going, oh my god, this is awesome. Flash, Aquaman had me, and the Green Lanterns plural had me going, this is cool. Okay, let's see where this goes. So I'm very excited for where it's leading. Get a good solid start on those. There's in my opinion, no bad starts. Everything's a good solid start. Some of them had me freaking out a little bit more than others, but then again, it is Superman and Batman and Wonder Woman, so those titles should have me freaking out a little bit more.
You're leaving out one of my favorites, Green Arrow.
Oh, sorry. Yes. Another solid start. All the greens, lanterns and Arrow and Flash and Aquaman really had good solid starts for me. I think Green Lanterns it's at that point where it's at a building phase. I'm like, okay, but all the others I was like, bam, this is a solid beginning. Let's kick this off.
See, it's funny. Well, we've talked about this before and talked about reboots and storytelling changes and different things like that. I mentioned the fact that I'm pretty comfortable if they reboot a line and do that kind of thing. And I am. And that's a genuine piece to that. But I have a preference. And whenever you can do it in a way that you're connecting it story-wise, I love continuity. And I love DC's crazy convoluted continuity, where they somehow find a wacky way to connect the dots in ways that you didn't expect. I thought that first initial Jeff Johns Rebirth issue was great, because what it did was it set the stage for the fact that this current universe is connected to the previous one. But it didn't wipe out this universe to do it. In many ways, it said, these are the same characters, which leaves some real questions when we start talking about the Superman books. I've got some serious questions now. Because if you make the assumption that all of these characters are the same players from the previous universe, they just don't remember, because of things that have happened to them, that leaves some serious questions that were alluded to in Superman. about the fact that they don't know the truth, that their understandings of who they don't quite make sense. So I can't wait to see what's going on, because we're spoilery, so we already announced the books. We got Superman and Clark Kent in the same book. Here's the question about the New 52 Superman and the previous universe Superman. If they're both in the same place, and we're under the impression that these are the same people from the previous universe, I know that Superman came from Convergence. Great, I get that. But we got two of them.
Yeah.
That part is really interesting to me. Who is the real Superman? What is the real story there? What is the real nature of these two characters? They alluded to that mystery. I think that mystery to me is really, really exciting. I think it's going to play off in Superwoman, because we know that Superwoman is Lois Lane, right? Isn't that the way this? Yeah. It's not out yet, so I'm just going off of what the blurbs are. But I'm assuming her powers somehow play into that whole storyline. I'm guessing, and this is just me making a guess out there, that the reason why this Clark doesn't seem to have powers might have something to do with Superwoman. And is that the Clark from the New 52? Where are we at on that?
Here's my theory on this. Okay, if you remember back to the end of the new DCU Superman, when he dies, and there was that energy bolt that blasted off that hit Lana and Lois, and we both said that can't be a throwaway. There's got to be something. Right. I think that is what gives Superwoman her powers. Because you also see in Superman #1, when we have the Superman out there now dealing with Lana, she knew stuff that she didn't know how she knew. So she's got a little bit of that knowledge as well in her. She knew where the fortress was. She was able to lead him there, and etc. So we see Lana's got some effect of it. Lois has some effect from it. I'm thinking that there is a physical form out there that was the physical form of Clark Kent that now does not have any of the mojo in him. That now is just a physical body. So whereas...
Well, no, he knows who he is, though.
No, he knew, but he doesn't have the physical mojo. He knows, he knows who he is. He is just Clark Kent. He's not Kal-El. Okay. I think the person that we're seeing is Clark Kent. If they run DNA testing on him, he'll be 100% human.
I agree with you. No, you're saying that the way you said it first that threw me off. You said it's just a physical body. I thought you meant that that what's upstairs wasn't there. I think it really is. Now, here's my question: how much does he remember? I guess where maybe we do have some agreement on this one. He knows he's Clark Kent. He knew Jimmy Olsen right away. Does he know he was Superman?
I say yes, because when Lex starts questioning him immediately, he goes into the "I'm not Superman" line. Yes. And when he tells Jimmy, he's like, "It's complicated." So he knows what Jimmy's about to ask. He knows that Clark Kent got revealed as being Superman. And he probably has a better understanding of who he is than the rest of us do yet. And when he sits down and he and Superman, after this whole Doomsday stuff plays out, he's gonna, basically, I'm thinking that's how we're gonna find out who he is. I think we're gonna have Clark Kent in this universe, and I'm actually very happy about having Clark here because the character himself is actually kind of a neat guy. So we're gonna get all this stuff. We're gonna get the Clark who's married to Lois, who has a kid. We're gonna get the Clark who's a reporter. We're gonna get Superman. We're gonna get Superwoman. We're gonna get Lex Luthor, which again, I love this issue of Action Comics just because Lex, I was like, my man, Lex.
Can we jump back real quick? As soon as we already started talking about the Superman issue, we'll jump into talking, I think, a little bit more detail in the Action Comics when we get to it. I want to talk about that Superman issue because what I really liked about it was Rebirth at its nature. When you have these issues, when you look at the Green Lantern Rebirth and Flash Rebirth, when they've done them, they do a great job in these issues of kind of going over the story of the main character, the backstory, and letting you know who this character was. What I loved about this was, you got to imagine there's a New 52 crowd that maybe didn't read the previous universe. Okay, there's going to be some people that maybe they tried Superman for the first time. Maybe, they weren't a Superman reader. There's a lot of characters who I know of in Marvel and DC who growing up I didn't read because I didn't have the budget to. I knew of the characters. I read them maybe in a team-up book. but I didn't read them monthly. So I didn't know their whole chronological story, other than the fact that, if there was a passing conversation with a fellow comic fan, I knew, but growing up, I didn't have the internet to even look at for those type of things. So Superman's story, kind of going through the pre-New 52 Superman story here with Lana, and kind of talking about his history from his death and his return and all that, and how it was relevant to this current New 52 Superman and why he had some hope that guy might come back, was really interesting on this part. I'm with you that I loved the Lana sequences because that was the first clue that something's going on with her. She's supposed to be in that Superwoman book.
Yeah, so I'm assuming that's why she's going to be in the Superwoman book, because they're going to have some type of connection.
Yeah.
One of the things I loved about this Superman issue was, again, like you, with just his interaction with Lana, where that initial reaction she has when she sees the shield, she's like, Clark! Comes running up and gives a hug, and he's like, ah! You can tell he doesn't want to hurt her, cause her any pain or emotional, but he's there, and he's trying, and I love just how that whole thing played out, and just the two of them started getting closer. But the best part was when they're actually in the fortress, and you see that look, never occurred to me to do it in my fortress, but how obvious. He honored both. And he's got both parents set up there, whereas this Superman only had the Kryptonian parents. That was something that was really cool, having him, one, acknowledging that the other Superman, hey, that was a good idea, I should have done it. But two, seeing it there, and then of course with the ending with him putting Clark into the honoring with the statue. I was like, man, this is some neat stuff here. I was very just, again, you kind of get a little tear jerky, the tears just kind of, my eyes got a little wet here in a couple moments, because, you get these great, just these moments where you're just like, you're saying goodbye to your friend. And yes, we have a Superman. Yes, we have a Clark and Lois. And this is one of my favorite Superman incarnations. So I'm like, hey, but the New 52 Superman was a really cool character. He was a really cool guy. And, I'm like, man, it's tough to see. And then I love the ending moment with him and Lana just burying Clark with his parents, honoring that last wish that he wanted. He wanted to be brought home. And I thought that was like, again, I was like, man, this is some cool stuff on this issue.
I like that he made a statue to Superman, that's this world's Superman, in honor of him.
Yeah.
And in the fortress, and kind of looking at that and kind of going, all that's missing from this world is Superman, all that's missing from tomorrow is Superman, giving a start of a motivation to reinsert himself into the world. When you're Superman, when you're a guy like Superman who's used to rushing in and saving the day, we know from the Lois and Clark book that he has been doing things behind the scenes. He has been helping. He's been very careful about it and very stealth-like, but he's been doing things to help while watching the world, because that's who he is. Has to drive you nuts when you're Superman and you're used to rushing in to save the day, and that's your thing, to not take that active role in doing it. That part, I really loved that book came out before this happened. Obviously, I'm assuming that they knew, with that book only being, 8 issues, that they knew at the launch of that book that this was what was going to eventually happen. This was going to be the end game of this. I never took that book as being that when it was initially being released. I thought it was like, oh, cool, we're going to have 2 Supermen again. Kind of like what we had in the previous universe where the Kingdom Come Superman was on the JSA, and he was running around in our universe. So I took this as being this Superman kind of taking that role instead of becoming the guy. and I really like the way this storyline's gone. I'm so glad to have him back, because I've loved the Lois and Clark book. And I loved the way they did the closure to this Superman. It's done in the typical fashion that I think only DC is able to get away with. I like when they do things like this, when there's the multiverse and there's multiple versions of characters and you're able to play around with stuff like that. I think one of the biggest mistakes in the New 52 from reading these issues now, and this is somebody, I'm saying this as a fan of the New 52, so don't get me wrong, I'm not knocking it, I'm not taking back anything I've said, I've enjoyed every moment of the New 52, but one of the tenets that I really love about it is the wacky stuff that you're able to do due to the convoluted nature of DC history. The fact that there's been 8 million of this character or something like that. When you embrace that and you tell clever stories around it like this, you're right, this was a great issue. and an emotional issue, because I loved the New 52 Superman. He was a character that, as his book progressed, I thought that they got a handle on how to do him right. And then when things really went haywire and his identity was revealed, I was pretty invested in the character at that point and was really interested. I didn't see him dying.
No, I did not see him dying. That was the one thing I did not. I didn't know how they were going to go about this with the secret identity and all that, because Clear has to be a Clark Kent. That's, one of those things where, I didn't know what they were going to do. And that was the thing that I was always excited about, not knowing. And I had, ideas. Well, then when they had, because especially when they had they had the two Supermen in the world. And I was thinking, one of them is going to get depowered. And it'll be one of those, and I wasn't thinking death. I was actually thinking just like, maybe energy siphon, or the other Superman would lose his powers, and our Superman would continue, or I didn't know what they were going to do. And it was one of those things. And, when it looked like they were going to kill him off, I was like, they got to come up with a swerve. There's got to be a swerve. And there wasn't a swerve, and he dies. I was like, oh, and then, as the story continues on in Rebirth, you're seeing the ramifications, you're seeing the impact, and I was just like, it's one of those things where if you're gonna kill off a hero, you gotta make it a good story, and you gotta make it count. And his death was a great story. They made it count. There are the ramifications. It's not being swept under the rug. We have these current stories, and the universe still has a Superman. There still is a Clark Kent out there. There still is Lois Lane, etc. They've just taken the character and moved him along and evolved him a little bit. And I think that for me was a kind of a neat point. The fact that we have this older, more experienced Superman, within this universe, but he's still Superman. So it's not like, it's not like he can, if he's older, he's going to be a little bit slower, a little bit weaker. He's not. He's still Superman. He's still the man, but it is a little different character. He's going to look at things and approach things a little bit differently. But now, with Action Comics, he's jumping right into the fray. So I'm like, cool, no more waiting. Bam, let's go.
I liked how that framed out. I'm glad the Superman issue came out first, because it kind of set the stage for the backstory. I like refreshers, especially when it's a character that I've loved. I like that they did a quick refresher. I like that Action Comics was very different than that, though. To your point, very early on in the issue, we knew, if you've been reading Justice League, you knew that Lex Luthor had gotten this, Superman suit and power and was, kind of ready to do that thing. So I knew this was going to be Lex here just because of the, previews from it. So I was fine with that. When we get into the bits with Maggie Sawyer, first of all, going back, Jimmy Olsen teaming up with her, and you get to see, Lex not only save the day, but the part that really struck me, Upstate, that page, the Kents moving to a farm. That part was really awesome. They moved to an upstate farm, very reminiscent of what Smallville was. I'm a big fan of the Kansas farm boy Superman. I've always liked that. There's something quaint about it. It's something that is an important part of Superman to me. I don't care how you modernize this character. There's something old America about his upbringing that I think adds to his character. And I think you need that. That is an important quality that I think separates him, and you get this stance of, he comes from parents from a very old school moral background. I like that you jump from that to Metropolis, it brings him into today. So he's got that attachment to cutting edge. And that's what I think having him be in Metropolis is pretty critical to the character too, because he is a man of both worlds. But there's something to those values that I think separates him from any other DC hero and really any other comic book hero. I think there's certain superheroes that have those very distinct qualities to them. There's certain parts of their backstory that create their character, and if you take them out, you lose it. That piece needs to be there.
Oh, God, yeah. And it was funny because as you're talking, I'm nodding my head saying yes, because I love the fact that in that one page, where that upstate page itself, one side you have Lex Luthor in the body armor. Lex Luthor has everything under control, and he's sitting there all like, look at me, I'm the hero. And then you got the Kents unpacking the car. And I love the fact that we have zero food in the fridge, nothing is put away, yet the TV is already hooked up. I love the fact that John, just first thing he did was, okay, let's get the TV going. That cracked me up because one, I would have done it when I was his age, but two, that's a kid, that's a gamer, that's he's got a lot of games. He doesn't want to lose the video games. He's got to get that set up. But then I love the fact that he's like, "Hey, Dad, you could do this in like in a couple seconds flat for us." He's throwing out there wanting his dad to use the super speed to unload the car, but you're seeing the difference between Clark Kent, the Kansas farm boy, and Lois Lane understanding the responsibility of the power. Just because they can do it, it's not always the right thing. You never want to take the easy way out. You always got to do it the way that's done the right way. And I love that mindset. I love that fact that right from the beginning, they're instilling that in John. I was like, yes, yes.
I like that they've, as a couple, clearly talked about the kind of values they want to raise their kid with. I think that's really an important message in there. And I don't know, I love it. That's kind of an old school thing as well, but I really enjoy that. I think that's something that added to because it feels very Superman and Lois Lane in the way that they handled that. I love that the two of them having this rich history with their world's Lex Luthor, that Clark is having this discussion with Lois. We've been there. We've been through this together. You know what this guy's capable of. I know it's this world's Lex Luthor, but we've seen so many times what he can do. We can't let this stand. We've got to do something about this. He rushes up the stairs. Dude's shaving. In the classic, there's no doubt what he's doing. Dude's going there to shave for the purpose of, I'm going. It's it. We're ready to go. We're all business. And it's so pointed to read this after reading the Superman Rebirth issue because of where the end of the issue left off. Because that smile of, tomorrow needs a Superman. And I just loved how that kicked right into this issue. Hit the ground running. You mentioned it right at the beginning of the discussion of this issue. And I couldn't agree with you more. That's really important to this story.
I love whenever, they show him shaving using his heat vision. That is something that it always makes me smile. I always get a little giggle because I remember back a long time ago before Lois knew the secret. He was she was over his house and he was getting ready and he takes a razor, turns on the razor. So there's the razor sound, the electric razor, and then does the heat vision on the face. I still remember that issue where he actually did those little extra stuff just to make everybody think he is, he's normal. And I love seeing that again right here where they pull it out and just go through it. But I tell you, that scene where he's flying off, and Metropolis needs a real Superman, and you see John in the bottom, go Dad, go. I was like, yes, this is one of those. I was doing the yes chant and high-fiving and just that really cool look of him flying up. That was a classic Superman look. I love when the letterers do the Superman big and bold the way they do it, where it pops out 3D. I was like, yes.
You know what? I love the costume. The costume is really cool. Immediately I liked it. I was like, oh, yes, I really like it. Right amount of modernization while keeping the right classic edge. It just feels, it feels right for this Superman in particular. It feels like an evolution of that Superman's costume, and I thought that was really, really cool. While being a nod to the New 52 Superman. Like, it's kind of the right mix of every little piece that you want there. Yeah. One of my favorite discussions was also talking about Lois and John. Dad's letting everyone see him? I thought he wanted to stay secret. True enough, honey. But we always knew the day would come where Daddy would reveal himself to the world. Sometimes we need to do what's right and accept the good or bad that comes with it. And I like that that's the reason. You know what? This may not go clean. And we're well aware of that. But this is about doing what's right. This is what we do. And we know there might be consequences to it, but it is about making the choice to do what's right in spite of what it might mean. I like that message. It's a very Superman dun-da-da message. This issue made me feel good from start to finish. From the confrontation to Lex to the dialogue between the two, because I thought Lex was incredibly well written. Superman's dialogue, it so felt like that classic pre-Flashpoint Superman. Lois's, I love the kid. The kid, I feel like through that 8-issue series, I was getting to know the kid. The more I see of him, the more I like him. I'm excited for Super Sons because the kid's very interesting to me. This is all just working.
Oh God, yeah, and I loved again Lex in this issue. He played the hero perfectly played it. Got Superman to initiate the fight. He's coming across as the good guy, and this is obviously an imposter, even to the point where he goes, you talk a good game, but your unprovoked attack proves you aren't Superman. Use his own thing against him. That was absolutely perfect. And I was just like, again, wonderfully written Lex Luthor. I was so excited, and just seeing these two throw down again with Jonathan throughout it. Dan and Luthor are going to fight. Apparently so. Cool. Yeah. I'm like, yeah. I'm right along with the little guy. And the thing that's it's kind of smacking myself in the head when you get the ending, because this whole thing, when the whole issue starts with this robbery going on that Lex thwarts, and as the clues are laying out, it was just a giant diversion for something else, for some other theft. And initially in my head, of course, I'm thinking, okay, Lex set up the robbery to make his grand appearance. He wanted to show off and be the big hero. That's the whole thing I'm thinking in my head. But you see, there was an actual robbery. And when you see that they actually robbed Doomsday, I was like, oh, wow. Now, Doomsday's on the cover of the issue. So, it should have dawned on me. But to be honest, when I have this in digital and I immediately jumped to it and I just started going, I didn't really pay attention to the cover. I just started jumping right into the body, and I didn't, and it's silly. I didn't look at the cover. If you looked at the cover, I would have seen Doomsday there. So when that big reveal at the end finally comes up, Doomsday, I was surprised by that as well. I was like, yeah, Doomsday.
That part really worked because I liked that it was a shock for both players in the game. I like that it's not just Doomsday, though. There's somebody else watching, and there's more to the story. Because, you want to up the game when you got Lex Luthor and Superman involved, but you got two people that aren't going to naturally team up. That part was really important to me. I really loved how that played out, because you got a confrontation with two characters that are ready to come to blows anyway, and then you bring in the third player. The writing on this could not have been better. It just really hit all of the right beats with the entire supporting cast. Jimmy, Maggie, Lois, the son. This is part of the world. I loved the bit with Clark Kent where we had Perry White reacting. Everyone's kind of like, that sounded like, and that whole bit. I loved the way every piece of this just played out, because that's an important part of Superman's world. The supporting cast are really important to me as well. And to have all those players put into the game as well, right out of the starting gate, they did a great job.
Amen. And everything you were saying, especially the comments on the supporting cast. I think that's something that really has me excited for Superman and Action Comics. It's not just the big character. There is all these other supporting people. There's all these other characters. It's something that that I really enjoy, and I know you enjoy this in a comic, when it's not just about the one, it's about the all of them. It's it's like when Gotham stories talk about Gotham City as an entity, when they you bring into the the Flash family, when you bring into the supporting pieces that give Barry strength, and now going on Green Arrow, we're going to start getting a Green Arrow team dynamic. Aquaman and Mira, those relationships, those connections that these heroes have, that to me is always going to be the strength of a comic. And that's something we're seeing in all of these issues and all of these rebirths. It's not just about the rebirth of the main character. It is about the rebirth of their supporting team and about who's around them.
It's about a rebirth of certain elements of the universe. That's one of the things that they're really trying to take a look at and seems to be targeted. And this is where I'm finding some comfort in this. I like when they recognize the fact, okay, we got a fan base that's been reading the New 52. We did this big reboot. We've got a fan base that's into it. But one of the things we clearly did is we alienated a crowd. How do we do fan service to our people that have been sticking with us all along because they've been enjoying what we've been doing, while at the same time trying to bring back in our fans who've been disenfranchised? You got to find a balance in that one, because you don't want to alienate one crowd to satisfy another. You want to find a balance where you're trying to hit it for everybody. I can't speak to that piece, as far as is it doing a great job of bringing in that previous crowd, other than the fact that I was reading during that time, you were reading during that time. We loved the stuff that was going on before. I feel like they're bringing back in the right elements. There are things that I'm like, oh yeah, I missed that. I'm glad that's back. That's really feels great. So they're bringing in a lot of the things that we really love about these characters that have been missing. I love the longevity. I like the fact that we're seeing the kid. I love Lois in this. These are all the pieces that, I'm like, I know I liked the continuity of Superman being married. That being brought back is something. This is exactly an example of why I don't think a character being married is a weakness. This story feels fresh. Him with the kid and the mom and they're now reacting to the fact that the Superman's gone, and there's been a sense of progression, and, these characters feel like they're trying to embed themselves into a world that's kind of moved on, because of the fact that they weren't a part of it. But yet at the same time, these are the characters we love, and they've got the history that we love, and they're approaching it almost like, here's one of the things that's sometimes hard to do. I sometimes find it hard to ride along with Superman because of the fact that he's so above and beyond, with his power, he's Superman. And he's, in this case, because of the fact that we've had that history with him, we were pre-Flashpoint. We read that with him. I feel like I'm running along with the guy. We know what he knows, whereas a lot of the universe doesn't. We know who he is. We're here with him. Like, buddy, we're your guys. We know. We've been here with you all along. Yay, you're back. Dun, 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 all that stuff. Yep. That's us. We're your gang. The average population member here in this universe doesn't know them that way. And that part's fun for me. I like that. It's a clever little twist, and it's added a sense of nostalgia while being fresh. That balance I'm finding really cool. I'm hoping people that maybe jumped off the Superman ship that are longtime fans and seeing this guy back again and, kind of seeing him explore this world are feeling that same kind of nostalgia, because the nostalgia trip for me is fun. Jim, if it's okay with you, could we jump to Green Arrow and just have some talk about Green Arrow Rebirth?
Oh, God, yeah.
Because you were talking team dynamic before, and I was really glad that Ben Percy was staying on as the writer of this book, because one of the things, and I've referenced this on the show, and I think you have too, I've really enjoyed Green Arrow in the New 52, but the problem has been every time I start getting into a run, the team changes. And I really feel like this is a book that will benefit from having some longevity of creative team. Ben Percy, I think, has been nailing it. I think this book's been a fun read. I've been really digging Green Arrow. I was thrilled that was going to continue going into Rebirth, where we're kind of bringing back in the Black Canary Green Arrow dynamic in this one was, for me, really awesome, because they hit the ground running pretty fast. And the reason why they could is because the Rebirth issue referenced the fact that these are two people that in many ways are longing for each other, and they don't know it. They don't know each other. They don't know that they're longing for each other. They very casually know who each other is. And I really liked that this issue referenced that, but there was that kismet, that connection that was there that I just so love with these characters. You mentioned the Team Arrow dynamic. That's something I've always liked. I like that this doesn't throw out the window the Team Green Arrow that we've already had in the New 52, because I like those characters. But it does bring back in some pieces that are missing. The Ollie and Dinah relationship is a strong relationship, and I like the fact that this is an opportunity to reboot that and explore that again in a modern world with those two characters. I love the goatee. I don't think he has to look 100% like the TV Green Arrow. I love the TV Green Arrow. I don't think it needs to happen. I like that that's being brought in, but I like that it's more of a modern, kind of contemporary goatee. I like that people reference it like it's something unique, because it would be in this world. And I love it. I really think that everything about this issue hit all of the beats that I liked. The interplay between the two, the different dynamic of their powers, and the way that they fight. I know Ollie doesn't have powers, but I mean, his arrows, her canary cry, her martial arts, his fighting style, all of it played off together really, really well, where you got to see that the two of them really were a yin and a yang for each other in a way that was really effortless. This felt like a team-up book, and I really liked the dynamic.
Yeah, and I love the fact that right from the jump, they are kind of, I don't want to say they're at each other's throats, but they kind of are. They're pushing each other's buttons and just going, I love, Dinah brings up the fact that, you're saying you're the man of the people, but look at this apartment. This is a high-end place. That's, you've got more food in there that would feed a small country and all that. But Ollie fires right back. He doesn't just, one, he doesn't apologize for his wealth, but two, it's, hey, I need this stuff. I need this stuff to be the Green Arrow. Plus, Queen Industries gives all this money to charity. We help people, and I love the fact that he didn't, back down. He didn't, and he threw right back at her. And it's one of those things where you can have, you can have a long-term relationship with somebody, and you can be that open and honest with each other. But these two are doing that right from the beginning. That's that right from that connection, that the old saying, I feel like I've known you my whole life. These two have that feeling right from the get-go, right from jump. And I love the fact that they have that because we know they should have that. We know the backstory. They're learning they're going to eventually learn of this backstory. They're eventually going to learn. I'm assuming that this universe is going to remember everything, and they're going to know what happened in the past, what happened, where they are, and who they are. And I think that for me is exciting to see right from the beginning. You already have an established relationship. You already have that comfort, and neither of them knows exactly why they have that. It's that nagging at the back of the head. It's that thing where people say, I feel like I've known you my whole life. And I love just the fact that that's what it played out with these two. Between, like with Lois and Clark, they had that relationship and everything's grown, and they don't have that. With Aquaman and Mira, we've seen that relationship build, so it's not something that it's kind of like a weird mystic thing. I don't know why. These two have that weird mystic thing, and it so fits them and is so perfect for them. Especially, I loved in the action sequences, these two were fighting like a team already. They already had that groove, and I was very excited for that.
Let me ask you this question, because you said that I'm assuming that everyone's going to get their memory back. What if they don't? Because here, I'm going to be honest with you, reading this issue, and here's the thing, this isn't me disputing that. I'd be cool if they do. So I like all the reasons why you're saying that that's a cool thing. I'm more playing devil's advocate when I'm asking this question, because this issue was so good to me that I'm fine with the fact that if these two stay, like if their relationship develops from this standpoint and moves forward as a totally new and fresh relationship where there's something unspoken, where there's that connection that's unspoken that just, they can't even explain it, that pulls them together. I don't have a problem if there's some kind of a universe-shaking event and they're aware that something happened to them, but they never have the memory of it. Maybe only Flash gets it fully back, or, certain people like Batman or get it back. I don't know. I would be fine if everybody did, so this isn't me disputing what you said. I'm also fine with the concept of, what if we just find out that these people all find out that they were messed with? They keep moving forward. Because I think what they put back in place here, I love the artwork in this. Because I like the age of Ollie in this. Yeah, he and Dinah are both younger than they were. But I like that Dinah seems a little bit older than we've seen her recently. I think the art style really benefits her. They both look like they're the same age range. There's some sense of age progression since the New 52 started with the two of them. Ollie's a little bit more weathered, because he's been through a lot. So, and I think he's a character that benefits from this right now, because at this point with these characters, I think if you look at the origins of the New 52 Green Arrow, at this point we kind of want to see this guy. I'm ready for this guy that's in this issue. And if you know what I mean, there's a sense that him, a little bit more progression. He's not quite so cocky and arrogant as he was early on in the New 52. And I like that bit. He's got some of that flair, but that's Ollie. I mean, there's but it's not overstated, if you know what I mean. He was almost bratty in the beginning, and I like that now we're kind of, he feels more like what I'm used to with Green Arrow. The right balance of stuff. But I thought the art, I don't know if you agree with me on the artwork, and it's okay if you don't. I particularly like when that sequence where you first see him in the new costume jumping off, where it's Rebirth. Call me Green Arrow. I'm like, I really like that costume. I really like the design choice with that. I like that it has kind of an armor look to it while not being overdone, because he's a guy that, due to the nature of his skill set, he needs to be able to move pretty fluidly in order to shoot those arrows and all that. And there has to be kind of an endurance to all of that aspect of it, because you're popping out a lot of arrows. You're going to be moving pretty quick from place to place. You need that sense of mobility because you're human. But I liked his view. I liked the way that Dinah was drawn in this. I thought that it was a really, her face in particular, if you look at it, she looks older. Not intensely so, but enough that I notice it from her recent appearances, like in Batgirl, for example. I like that she feels a little older, and I hope this is carried over in Birds of Prey with her, because I really like her at this age right now. If I'm making it, I don't know if this feels right the same way for you. These were things that I noticed, though, that were pretty important to me in this.
Yeah, it's making perfect sense. I'm following you, and I'm agreeing with you. I like Ollie had kind of a punk kid sort of vibe to him before. Now I don't want to say flat out punk kid, but he did have a younger immaturity earlier. Mm-hmm. This is more of the experienced Oliver Queen. This is more of the experienced Green Arrow. He's not old man. He's not the old man on the block. He and Dinah now look to be the same age. They look to be they look to be older than what Batgirl is. Whereas before Diana was kind of looking close to the same age as Batgirl. I want Dinah to be older than Barbara. And this Dinah looks older. This Ollie looks the same age. They look like they're, right in line with each other. And I'm agreeing with you on just how they're presenting themselves here. It's more mature. It's more about, hey, I've seen some stuff. Each one of them have dealt with some serious stuff, with ex-husbands dying, coming back, and the craziness that Ollie went through with being a werewolf, everything that he's gone through, everything she's gone through, you can see the weathered in them. You can see the experience, but they're not old and decrepit. They're not beaten by it. It's one of those things that which does not kill you only serves to make you stronger. And you see the strength in them. And I think that is something that's kind of cool. And I even like, I was always a fan of the goatee guy. And I always wanted to see the goatee come back. I like how they brought it in where at first he's got the full beard and then he shaves down. Oh, I'm just going to clean up a little bit. He's trying to impress her. That's the reason he shaved down. He wanted to look good for her. And I love the fact that he's, putting that slick, he's being the slick Ollie Queen. He's being the, hey, how you doing? But without being sleazy about it. Those were some stuff I really liked.
Amen. I mean, this is the stuff that's so important to Green Arrow for me. And I enjoyed every page of this issue. I think Ben Percy's gotten it since we've referenced this comic before on the podcast. And I wish we'd done it more service than we have. Ben Percy really gets it. And is clearly taking a look at the best of what's worked with Ollie Queen in the New 52, but also the best of classic Ollie and brought it in here in a way that's organic. I like the flow of this. I feel like a progression. This issue felt like, to your point, these are two characters who've been through a lot, but are also at that stage in their life where they're ready to move on. Like we're ready for a new direction. We're ready to move forward. Ollie's already doing so much. She's already doing so much. They're at a different status quo, and we're joining them moving forward right now at the same time where they're both kind of in the same place. I really loved the dialogue. One of my favorite sequences was that whole Ollie Queen's apartment bit. You're right about the shaving and all that, but I liked how she was just hanging out there. He was talking. They were great, his interaction with the kid. Those are important bits to get to know the characters. They're just as important as the great action sequences in this. I think it just has everything that's so great. The artwork in this issue was really powerful for me. I know art's very subjective, and for me, I like that it's gritty, but able to go bright. There's the right bits where you're doing like the jungle bits where it gets a little more gritty there. Worked really well without losing, I think, the flow of what I've really enjoyed about the art for the entire issue.
I loved the jungle, and I'm racking my brain whether they ever had this type of community in Seattle before, because it so fits. You think just, with, in Washington, you've got a lot of the wooded area. You've got communities actually in the real world. You have these kind of shanty towns out there in the, in the rural environment, and you get this kind of stuff. And I love the fact that the universe has this, and it's actually a very developed community. And the fact that Ollie didn't know about it, and that for me was a really cool thing. He's like, I don't know anything about this. And again, it's that whole, it's not in his world, but he is still going to be there for them. And I'm thinking in future, we're going to see more references to the jungle. We're going to see references to Queen helping them out and doing stuff with it. Because for me, as cool as those apartment scenes were, I really did love that sequence in the jungle between the two of them. Because This is 2 pages of dialogue where they're going back and forth, where it's one of those where they're calling each other out. He's saying, hey, of course you didn't know about this. Why would you get involved with, something like this? And he throws back, okay, little Miss Rockstar. And I love just that little banter, again, that banter back and forth between the two of them. But in the end, when it comes down to it, these are a team that's working together. And they both recognize, okay, I don't completely know this person. She doesn't completely know me. And I love the fact that when they have that realization where they're seeing there's more to them than meets the eye. And I thought, again, those were some just cool dynamic moments between them. But this was a really great building block for this relationship. And again, it's something that we know about the Dinah, Ollie relationship already. New readers coming to this, they're going to get a really good right from this issue 1, good understanding of who these two are. They're not all lovey-dovey with each other. They're going to call it like they see it. They're going to call each other out, and they're going to be there to push each other. And that, for me, is what makes them such a great relationship. And also the flaw is that hopefully Ollie is going to be able to avoid this time around, but you never know with him. So it's, again, I'm excited for where this is going to go. This was a great launching for me.
There's something about her. Something that makes me feel gratefully defenseless. They had that bit too where the two of them were talking about second chances, and I just every moment in this I'm like, this is a great kickoff to really a rebirth for both of these characters. I don't know if she's going to be in every issue of Green Arrow moving forward. I don't know that she needs to be. I'm honestly, you and I are Team Green Arrow fans. I'm thrilled if she is. So you aren't going to hurt me either way on that one, but I love that this rebirth serves as like a really great kickoff for these two and a potential future relationship with them and keeping them going. Every moment of this just made me, it was giddy as a fan again for these characters. And Black Canary, I've been really digging the direction of Green Arrow. Black Canary benefited the most from this, I think, because it really got back to the core of what I love about Black Canary, who's a character that I feel lost her way a little bit in the New 52. I enjoyed reading her book, but I wasn't through the roof, and I loved Dinah Lance as a character. And we didn't talk about the book a whole lot on the show, and I don't think that was accidental. There was something missing with Black Canary for me, and I feel like we've gotten it back now.
Yeah, and again, as you're talking, I'm like, yeah, because we think back to when she was leading the Justice League in the previous universe. That Dinah Lance was awesome. I mean, that was somebody who, she walked into the Trinity's private warehouse, private little room with her own chair and said, oh, there's only 3 here. Well, I brought my own. And she sat down with Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman saying, hey, I'm in charge of the Justice League. I'm the leader, not you 3. This stuff ain't happening again. I'm calling it. And I love the fact that she had that confidence. She had that, oomph to her. This Dinah showed us the glimpses of that person. This Dinah showed us this is somebody who one day could stand with the big 3 and say, hey, I'm just as good as you are. And I love that, seeing that. And again, that was something that got me excited because this same Ollie had that same level of confidence, had that same level of pizzazz to him. The previous New 52 Ollie, those were some great stories. I loved, everything that was, went from one creative team to another creative team. We got some really good stories, but we didn't get that solid run. Right now, we're building on that solid run. We're creating that Ollie Queen that, again, he's a Justice League founding member. He is a Justice League person who stands with the Trinity. I love seeing these characters actually come to the strength.
I agree with you. That's been the part that really struck me for this one. I even love the bit that I promise, that both of them are holding their hands up. It was great to see that. She totally feels like the character from the Justice League now. And that was a home run that they nailed on this one in particular. Can we jump to Batman reboot? Because
I'm surprised you waited this long.
It was hard. It really was hard because I think why I didn't jump to it right away is because I've been so giddy about so many other things on top of this that it's great. Like Batman was one, I knew that was going to be great. I just knew this was going to be great, and it was great. It just was everything that I was expecting it to be. A lot of what you mentioned, it was like, I've been loving Batman already. They're just going to kick it up another notch, and they did. It did everything I wanted to do. Let's talk about it though, because I love everything that they set back into play here. Duke is showing up at the house. This is the offer, and we were finally getting some of the reveal of it. Talk about a sense of progression. You know, you got Batman versus Calendar Man and that whole bit going on. I'm digging the inside of the purple, the cape. Like, everything about the costume, I think, is working really well for me. Jim Gordon, what do you... Okay, him as commissioner again, back in the look. What are you thinking?
Oh, come on. That's awesome. This is, again, I'm glad that... I like Gordon, the Marine Gordon. I like the haircut. I liked why he did it. It made perfect sense. But this fits a commissioner look. The buzzed head, high and tight, that wouldn't fit the commissioner. That wouldn't fit an officer with the police department. You needed to have this look with him. And they even showed it at the end of the previous run where he started growing out the hair, where you saw it coming. So again, this is something I was very happy, very excited. Again, team dynamic Batman is awesome. You've got that classic traditional Batman who doesn't trust anybody, who's the paranoid bat. Yeah, I get it. Those are some really cool stories. But for me, Team Batman is the way to go. I always love when you see this because Batman is so intelligent. He has such, he is so, strategery that he has going. You can't just sit there and he can't just ignore the fact that there are strength in numbers. Now granted, he's got to make sure he controls the numbers. He's got to make sure that they're the right people for the job. So he's going to screen them, but he's got to look at it and say, yes, there's more than just me in this job. I need other people that I can count on and I can depend on. And again, right from there, Team Batman's going solid and strong. Very excited.
Lucius's story about Thomas Wayne, when Bruce is dangling there about how he's this crazy doctor. I think everyone, when you're passionate about something, you have a bit of crazy to you. That's you get that passionate about it, and I think there's a point to that. I love that he was connecting father to son. And kind of going, yeah, sure, what happened to you because your parents made you like this, but there's some of this that's genetic. And I like that. I really like the fact that, because this Bruce right now is a little bit more, with everything he's been through, he's a little bit more outgoing, a little bit more, I like the progression of Bruce. He's still Batman, the Batman that we all know and love, but I like that there's a Bruce Wayne that is also chatty and, we'll talk and joke around and within reason. He's measured on those things, but there's a swagger to Bruce that I'm really digging that makes sense with the character, especially with somebody who's got a new lease on life. He came back from, being dead because of what happened with that plant. Scars are gone, all that kind of stuff, but he's Batman again. He's back. He's got all his memories and all that kind of thing too. I like the sense of progression, but also rejuvenation that from his little vacation. And I really like the new lease on life. And I'm glad they're acknowledging that because that would be a part of this whole thing. You know what I love? There's a fun factor to this. That if you can mix that into Batman in just the right way, you and I were big fans of the Batman and Robin book, right? And what do we like about Pete Tomasi? Pete Tomasi knew how to, in the darkest hour, bring in some fun. And there's a balance to that that's really needed. I loved the Nolan Batman films. I loved the joking between Alfred and Bruce. I thought Michael Caine did a great job as Alfred because there was some personality there. Yet, it didn't take away from the serious nature of their relationship and how Alfred was the ultimate confidant, the ultimate partner. Really, sidekick isn't a right word. He really was partner. I mean, for lack of a better term, works really well. This has that back. The sequence with Lucius really just nails what I like about that relationship. Then we flash to the sequence with Duke, talking about Calendar Man, I love the cave. The visual of the cave in there I thought was really kick butt. I like that every so often they kind of rejuvenate the cave a little bit and modernize it while putting in the right amount of artifacts. Because the cave's got to have certain things. That dinosaur's got to be there. There's got to be this sense of just an overwhelming amount of really cool equipment. I love that the tumbler was there.
Yeah.
Just the right kind of drawing of bat vehicles from the past and from movies and stuff were there. Just a wink and a nod to the character's history. Batcave to me is always a thing that I want to walk through. I want to walk through the Batcave. And this did a great job of that, I thought.
Yeah. Oh, God, yeah. And it's, you talk about the cave. When I spent just it's a nice double page spread. I've got it full screen size, and I'm just sitting there staring at it going, look at that. Oh, cool. You see the different costumes. You, of course, see the Robin memorial. You see the Joker card and just everything that is played out. I'm like, man, you want to have this magnitude of the cave itself. And I even love how they went all out with the support beams underneath the platforms, and you really see the structure and just the magnitude that is the cave. But the coolest thing about that sequence was I love the fact that Duke is not going to be a Robin. Now, I was one of those guys who said, man, I really want Duke to be Robin. I think that'd be awesome. I didn't know what name Damian would go by, but I'm like, hey, let's give the fact that, Bruce right from the get-go saying, you're not here to be a Robin. You're here to be something new. And I love the fact that he's not a Robin, he's something else. And I thought that for me was like, that's kind of cool that it's, again, it's Bruce recognizing, hey, I need to change the game here. I need to change things up. I'm not training a Robin here. I need somebody else. And I thought that for me was like, wow. That, again, it shows growth in Batman. He's learned from the past. He's learned from the mistakes. And this is the guy I'm like, yes, this is what I want to see.
That costume is way cool.
Yeah.
I love Duke's costume. I think that's a really, really cool move.
Now is he going to be... Do we have a name for him yet?
Duke. He's going to be Duke. I don't know.
Because I was wondering if they're going to start calling him Batwing, if they're going to bring back that name.
I don't know. I don't. I really, at this point, I like that we don't know, because he's trying something new. I think there's a progression to this that I want to see. I don't know if it's going to be next issue, where it's going to be. I want to see it. I like the way it just kind of, this is we're I'm heading this off to you, and we'll kind of get there. And I like the kind of we'll kind of get there vibe to this, because this is something new. So he's building it as it goes along with Duke. That's the part I really like. I like their first mission together that Tuesday, where Batman's swimming down, and he's like, "Listen, you've been under for 5 minutes 41 seconds. Your body can't take this. You need to come up. Forget the spores. You're gonna die." And I love, it's, you can't do this. You can't do this. It's done. Just so typical Batman fashion. It's just one of those. This issue had some great pace to it. I loved the moving from seasons throughout it, especially when you got a Calendar Man theme. I loved the moving of seasons in this whole thing, how there was a sense of progression to the whole storyline between the two. We get to see Duke grow as he's working with Batman. So this Rebirth issue really is kind of a building of a new partnership, and we get to see it happen in real time, not in real time, but I mean, in specific seasons. The tree kicking bit was really kick butt. I really liked that. Yeah, I like the fact that this is, one, I like the change to Calendar Man, because I never thought of Calendar Man as some supernatural thing. I always thought it was just a weird guy who had a weird thing for calendars. So I like the fact that he dies and regrows and reborn, and he comes back as a new body. And it's one of those where every single time he comes back, he knows what he did wrong. He's improved on it. So every time he comes back better, it's like, what are we supposed to do? Easy. We come back better each time too. I like the fact that, again, it's that always, we got to keep pushing ourselves. We got to keep improving on who we are. And I thought those were some really cool, again, great moments between Duke and Bruce, where you're seeing just, why he is Batman, and you're seeing why this kid can be his partner. It's, I was very happy and I was high-fiving throughout this one. Yeah, there was actually every bit of this played out really well. And set the stage for two great books that I'm really interested in. Batman #1 and All-Star Batman #1. I mean, it's just going to be, I don't know, just a great era we're heading into. These issues are really critical because they need to get you excited. In many ways, they're different than a teaser, because a teaser is a short, quick thing. This is more of an explanation that gives you like a great deal of strong information that's followed. Sure, there's a teaser in there. Don't get me wrong on that. But I like that there's more depth to it. There's you walk out of this with something meaty, and it gets you really excited for all that. You said it best before, where you're like, Batman's already been great. This kicked it up a notch. Yeah. This did that. And that's really important with these creative teams, because Batman's had a momentum. It's been the consistent momentum at DC. So you don't want to lose that. in this. What you want to do is take the books surrounding it, the rest of the universe, and kind of start kicking them up a notch to get them back to that kind of flavor. And that's what you really got to do, because Batman's been solid. I mean, that's been great. You got to get the other ones to that kind of standard. And you've got to give that sense of longevity and history to those books. I think that people need. I need that bit. It's funny how I've been reading the New 52. You've been reading the 52. I've loved every second of it. So don't get me wrong on that. There's been some books that have been obviously better than others, but that was true of the previous universe. That nothing new. You have your favorites. But when you see this kind of thing and they start bringing in some of the bits and pieces and elements that you've been missing before on such a well-targeted scale, because I'm not saying grand scale, because they're doing this in a very measured fashion. I like that when I was reading the books last night, because I went through last night and I read all 5. I fell asleep when I came home from work. I was exhausted. And I had every intention of reading some of these before I went to bed. I woke up at 2 a.m. I started watching last night the wrestling event that was on that NXT. And I'm like, I'm going to watch that and then I'm going to go to bed and read a couple books. I was so tired from work, I fell asleep during NXT. No knock to that. I just didn't have time. I just wasn't. And I woke up at 2 a.m. and I'm like, I'll read 1 or 2 of these and fall back asleep. I read all 5 that came out this week because they were that good. I kept getting more excited. So usually reading is a way for me to get tired. These I kept drawing. I'm like, oh, there isn't another. I want to read more. And that to me is a successful launch when you're like, I want to keep reading more of these books. Do you want to jump to detective, seeing as we're kind of?
Oh God, yeah, we have to
on the Batman thread
again. Another, oh my God, with Batman and Detective, those were 2 wonderful Bat stories. And again, as I said, Team Batman. This for me was, when I heard the teasers about it, oh, that's going to be kind of interesting with everybody, especially the cast of characters. But then as it's playing out, as he's building his team and you see why he's building it, I'm like, oh my God, this is awesome.
I was glad to see Azrael in it at first. And Batman coming to save the day with Azrael. I just thought that whole sequence when Batman blasted through that window. I love the new costume. I really love the new costume. Almost instantly. I think they did the right mix of what worked in the New 52 one with a little bit of classic flair to it and something new. I love the belt design. I love the shield. Every bit of it I just think is just something really special and sharp. Because sometimes there's costumes where it take me a little while to get used to. This one out of the starting gate I liked. And it just works really well with a variety of different artists. They're able to do their spin on it and make it look cool. And I think that's something that's a sign of a good costume design choice with Batman, because so many artists touch Batman because the character appears in a lot of places. You need a costume that really lends itself to this, and I thought it worked really well.
I love this opening sequence because you get into it and you're thinking initially it's Batman versus Azrael. Like, wait, what? And then of course when Batman swoops in, you start to get the pieces. And by the end, we see what's going on. I'm like, we kind of see what's going on. We just see an army. There's a new big bad out there with an army, and their characters look an awful lot like Batman. So we know why he's targeting the Bat. He's a specific Batman villain. And I'm like, so I'm kind of curious again. But just the building process through this, just the introduction where these drones are following him. And then Batman, once again, he's on top of the drones and he's taking them out. But the fact that they're there, the fact that they're monitoring, the fact that they're watching him, he's going up against an enemy who's planning and preparing and building for the Batman. He's building for Team Batman. He knows Team Batman's coming. He knows that what he's doing and who he's recruiting. So that, for me, had me very excited right from the get-go that we're getting a villain who's going to be able to keep up with Batman, who's going to be able to push him, who's going to be actually able to be his equal on the battlefield. And I'm very excited to see who is this person.
Batwoman, her whole conversation with her dad, straight on through to Bruce's reveal of who he is to her, and her knowing. I loved that they acknowledged the family aspect between the two. I loved his reasoning for wanting her. That whole bit was really great. I'm a big Kate Kane Batwoman fan, and I was really glad to see her appearing somewhere. I like that they're solidifying the relationship between the two and finally getting to the point where they're like, Bruce is letting her know who he is. Let's bring her into the fold. let's not ignore the fact that she's got some severe differences to Bruce. And I like that. Like, he's going to her for her strengths, recognizing the fact that the two operate differently. And this is going to be an interesting relationship because of it, because they're both the alphas of the book. And that's always an interesting dynamic. And I really like that this, again, fresh and new. You know, it's there's a sense of longevity here. There's a sense of progression here. But there's also a fresh and new. You can have all of that together and make it work. That's uniquely DC. That's part of the continuity piece, and that's what I think people are, I'm hoping, clicking with in this. Because for those people that are like, but I'm missing my sense of history here, we got history now. This is starting to happen. I really like that, you know, with the fact that we're bringing in some of the characters that have been missing from the universe. They feel very classic. The relationships with the characters that they're interacting with. Tim Drake, come on. Tim Drake with Spoiler. That whole bit was phenomenal because he's being brought in as the lieutenant. We're already acknowledging the fact you're in a different category than the other three.
The bringing Batwoman in had me so excited. One, I love the character. But two, just the usage of it. And I love the fact, again, this is a different Bruce. He's willing to admit it. And I love the fact that, you know, he even says, with your background, your understanding of how a team unit, you know, how to work as a unit, you are frankly better suited than I am. The fact that he admitted that someone was better at creating this team, taking this team and training them was something that was awesome. Yeah, and I cheered and hooped and hollered. And then when he introduces, you know, Red Robin as her lieutenant, saying, hey, this is someone you already, this, you know, is again, it's the command structure. You got your main person, but you know, Tim Drake isn't a recruit either. He's not a trainee. He knows what he's doing. He's going to be there in the field to help you out. You know, and I love this how that played out. Those were stuff that I was hooping and hollering for, and I was absolutely just thrilled and excited. You know, you know, just on one that, and then you add to the Tim and Stephanie kind of, you know, the friendship, relationship, whatnot that's growing between them two. I was like, man, this issue is hitting a home run on all cylinders for me.
I like that Stephanie shows some progression there, too. There's two bits I want to reference there. Red Robin. Tim Drake has the best tactical mind of any partner I've worked with. His knowledge and experience are vital. It's really important to give a sense, for those we're Tim Drake fans, you know, that is a character who every bit of that paragraph there gave me a sense of the character who I know and love. He got a progression to him. He feels like that guy again. Putting him back in a more familiar costume while modernizing it, great move. Because we're trying to set the tone here. We're bringing back some legacy. We're bringing back, you know, some of what you love about these characters. We're bringing back the familiarity. These are characters who did exist previously. Something happened to them all. Every single one of them went through this thing. It's them. They're there. I like that. I don't think this negates what happened with the Flashpoint event. Great, the Flashpoint event happened. It adds to that story and in a way further connects it to the previous universe. This I'm a fan of. This is the way I like these things being done where, guess what? You didn't know the whole story. And obviously this wasn't the intention from the get-go with the New 52, but this is a proof. Good writing. You can take one issue, like that big Rebirth issue, and set the tone for this entire line. Really smart.
Oh, God, yeah. And the thing I loved about the Stephanie and Tim, that dialogue and just that banter was that one little moment where they're talking and he's like, I got the letter. You got it? Oh, man, we've got to celebrate. You know, again, there's something else going on in Tim's life, and I'm assuming the letter is some type of university or scholarship or college or something like that. That's probably going to may take him away from Gotham, but it's something that it's not Red Robin and Spoiler. It's Tim Drake and Stephanie. There's something going on that, you know, that they know about. You know, I'm assuming the others know, but there's definitely that something special going on. And I love just that, again, that connection between the two of them. Those were some of my favorite Tim Drake stories, were the Tim and the Spoiler episodes. I loved those issues.
I thought we agreed that you would tell me when you started targeting A-list villains. I thought we agreed that if you talked down to me like that, I was going to lock you out of all your computer systems again. I loved that. Really great stuff. Banter, to your point, that's really phenomenal. Shows a familiarity with them. Cassie. I'm a big Cassandra Cain fan. I like her as Orphan. I like Orphan because of the fact that that new costume with the stitching across the mouth, very reminiscent of when she was first brought on the scene. We're going back to the roots of the character. I'm glad that she's being brought into Team Batman.
Yeah. Oh, God, yeah. And again, her as Batgirl wasn't something I didn't read a lot of that. So I didn't have that good, solid connection that everybody else has with her. So it's just the more recent issues, especially the last Batman and Robin Eternal, that I'm really getting to know who she is, what she's about. So for me, her going by Orphan, everything that happened with her father, everything that happened with her backstory and who she is and why she came about, and just that modernization of the character, but it still had that same groove and jive that was the traditional feel. Me as a relative new person, I've got the same excitement and same energy you have as having that long history with her. And again, I agree with you on the look of the costume. I think that's awesome. I especially love the fact that they're going after, she was taking down the child slave ring, and just puts a hurt on these guys. And then at the one word she says is safe to the little kids, just making sure, hey, don't worry, everything's good here. This sequence, couple pages, I was like, oh man, this is awesome.
The Clayface sequence was one of my favorites because you're bringing him into the team, and at first it's kind of like, Clayface? Why are we bringing Clayface in? Where are we going with this one? I loved every bit of that, because here's what it made. It made him an endearing character while telling you everything you already know about his origin. Basil Carlo. Let's go ahead. Let's show you all about him. He's like, listen, if you want to lock me up, please. I just need this moment. In that moment, you're kind of like, oh, all right. We kind of got to get a misunderstood misfit, which is probably every comic fan. I fall into that category. I mean, you start connecting with a character right away on that end. I absolutely loved that sequence because it made me connect with this character. Because I'm like, oh, we've all felt disenfranchised at one time or another. I think it's one of the reasons why we're drawn to this particular medium. Leads into this whole boot camp sequence, which sets the stage. Really, there was not a wasted moment in this issue. Really defined each of the players in the way that this is where they're at status quo-wise. This is who they are. Gives you this immediate familiarity with them. I love this team. This is a great kickoff to a book. I'm super excited for Detective Comics. Like Batman, I knew it was going to be a home run. I knew I was in on that one. I was excited about this for James Tynion. And I think I'm butchering his last name too, from what I know about his. So I will apologize for that immediately. This is a writer who I was excited for this book. The delivery exceeded my expectations. I knew this was going to be good. This was great.
Yeah. And again, that sequence with her addressing them, I loved. Again, there was such a classic boot camp military mindset.
Yes.
It fits who she is. This is exactly how she would address him. This so fits the character. And I love the fact that you've earned Batman's trust. You have not earned mine. I will be hard on you because if I'm not, you will die. I will push you to absolute limits you are capable of because if I do not, you will die. Even worse, innocent people will die. I love that mindset. I love the fact that she's sitting there saying, hey, I am going to be hard on you. I'm going to push you beyond anything you expect. Welcome to boot camp. Keep up if you can. I was like, man, that was awesome.
I like there's a secret he's keeping, and she called him on it.
Yeah.
I love that bit. I love that she called him on the secret. I know we've kind of referenced that about their relationship in this before, but her referencing, I'm not a subordinate again. I just, as we're getting into the closing part of this issue, I really liked the pacing of how the issue ended, which is why I'm re-referencing this. I think that was a really important part of this. And then seeing the big bad at the end. Any guesses who that is?
I don't know. Yeah, it's a massive army. They're kind of dressed in bat armor. My first thought was Ra's al Ghul, just because we know the League of Assassins have used bat type of stuff. But that kind of I don't see this as being a Ra's play, especially just how they are with the guns and all that stuff. A crazy thought that popped in my head that I hope I'm wrong on is her dad. You know, I hope I'm wrong on that. You know, I don't want it to be, him, but it just, to me, this is definitely a military personnel. This is definitely a military person doing this, especially, stand up against an army, and he addresses it as an army, and you see the way they're standing, the way they're in formation, that doesn't look like League of Assassins to me. So it's, again, I don't know. I hope it's not her father, but it's just in the back of my head. That's what my my whatnot senses are tingling, and that's what they're telling me. That again, and it's.
I think you may be right.
I don't want it to be because I like him, but. And even if you look at the shadowy figure, the body frame, it kind of it fits him. Especially when he was trying to call her in, the beginning of the issue, he's trying to get her to come in. Maybe he wants to recruit her to be the general of this army of his. He didn't want her to go and side with Batman. But again, I don't know. I hope not, because I don't want it to be the dad, because I really like him as a character.
Here's my question. Is Bruce keeping it a secret because he knows?
Oh, yeah. Holy crud. Yeah,
or
that
suspects.
Could be it.
Yeah,
he suspects, and that's the big secret that Bruce is keeping. See, now I'm like, oh man, now it's really locking in my head that it may be the dad.
And that's not me saying that I 100% believe it's the dad, but because I'll be honest with you, when you threw that one out, it blew my mind. I'm like, whoa, I didn't think of that. That's kind of cool. But I definitely see the possibility. I think you're onto something there. So I was not thinking that way until you said it. I'm kind of like, oh, that makes a lot of sense, especially considering the interaction. I would be happy if that went either way, just because I think it's a cool twist. But it adds a different dynamic than if you look at that sequence with Bruce at the end, because it adds another reason why he would be keeping the secret.
Why he'd keep the secret from her, yeah. I like that. I like that a lot. Again, I don't want it to be because I like the character, but story-wise, that sounds awesome.
It sure does. Wonder Woman?
Oh God, yeah.
The one thing, looking at the cover of the issue, obviously the costume transition, we're going back to more of the classic color scheme, with a little bit of a movie twist to it. And I like that. I actually quite liked the costume shift and the reasoning. I've always liked the body armor kind of look. I like that this is a hybrid of it not being too much of that. It's got like a warrior look, but not going crazy with it. The idea behind this is my memory keeps changing. The story keeps changing. What is the truth? From the Gumby story straight on through to my mother having a baby or babies. What is the truth of this whole storyline? The whole idea of Wonder Woman, from being the beloved, compassionate Wonder Woman to being the one that the idea that wonder means something different depending on which version of the story you're going by. I like that there's this sense of her knowing something more, knowing of a potential past and knowing of the current one. She has some connection to what's happened. And I'm curious if it goes to the whole larger story. I loved how this played out. This was one of the more intriguing issues because I didn't expect this to go the way that it did.
No, completely, did not expect this going this way. And because I was wondering if we're going to get some ramifications from the death of Superman and Wonder Woman dealing with that, or how she, and then just, we knew about the, she learned, at the end of the Darkseid War that she had a brother out there about Jason, and so she knows about that. So I'm thinking that's going to be the main focus, her looking for Jason and this and that. But I didn't see how this was going, and for me, again, just how it played out. So it had just this power to it that, again, this was a character who she didn't know who she was. And she had, it's that discovery. And again, it's that rebirth of who she is. But they didn't throw anything out. They didn't take away anything from her. And as a matter of fact, she's trying to get clarity on who she actually is. Is she the god of war? Is she this Gumby? Is she the daughter of Zeus? Is she a hero? Is she just this monster? Is she, what is she? Who is she? And I love the fact that she eventually takes her own lasso and wraps it around her. And because she's seeking the truth, and it's about the pursuit of the truth. And I thought for me, that was huge because, that's something, granted, when the easiest person for us to lie to is kind of ourselves. Sometimes we always tell ourselves little lies. Oh, I'll diet tomorrow. I'll exercise tomorrow. I'll lose some weight. And we know in our back of our head we're not going to do any of that stuff. We know we know we're going to keep going through. With that lasso around her wrist, she was compelled to 100% tell the truth. And she was able to face the mirror and face the hard facts as to that there's so much about her that she doesn't know. And I love the fact that was a thing that was like, I need to find the truth. It's the pursuit of the truth. What is going on out there? And that, for me, was a great way to initiate this, especially considering we know the next issue is going to be, going back and forth in the past. And they're going to do the present, past, jumping back and forth. I'm very excited for this story that they're going to be throwing out for us in Wonder Woman.
I am too. I really like that part of her. I like that when she's picking up the helmet and talking about that, she goes through her whole history and the different variations on the history, including the different variations of the history with Steve Trevor, and talking through that particular storyline. She crushes the helmet and references the fact that shouldn't be able to happen because this was this helmet of the gods that was created. And the wrapping the lasso around the arm and that whole thing, just spinning off of that, I thought was a really pivotal moment. It's just such a great story. Go ahead.
Well, for me, this is the beginning of her figuring out the secret. Not just the secret of, her mother lied. Wonder Woman is going to be one of those characters who I think figures out everything, figures out about, what happened through Flashpoint, figures out about the big bad taking away memories, taking away lives. And I think that is something, because we talked about Will, Dinah, and Ollie, remember, we didn't know. I think I'm 100% betting on that Wonder Woman is eventually going to figure out the truth. She's going to learn it, through her process. Especially, you look at just you have been deceived. Wait, who's done this and why? I am a fool. I've been made a fool. And she's, immediately figuring, okay, I've got to figure this out. I've got to go to Olympus. But Olympus isn't the main deceiver here. And I think, Diana's going to eventually realize that it's not those gods that are doing it. It's somebody else who's doing this. It's the new big bad of the DC universe that's doing this to her. And I think she's going to be one of those characters that learns everything. I'm assuming all of the big three, all of the Trinity are going to learn, and then that's what kind of leads me to believe that all the heroes are eventually going to figure this out, or if nothing else, the people who are the Justice League will know what's going on. The big names in the DC universe are going to figure out the truth, and I think we're seeing right now Diana's path to finding that truth.
I love the whole idea of retracing your steps. Like when the path, something's wrong with the path, you've got to stop, go back, retrace your steps, and find out where it went wrong. I loved that whole concept because that leads to the costume change and kind of the, going back to my roots, finding out what's going on here. I love that sense in this. I like the costume a lot. I mean, I really think this is a great costume choice between them. Where are you at on the costume?
Well, I'm a big fan. Oh, but I want to go to something really quick.
Go for it,
it's
please.
about costume. And it's something I didn't catch, until my art read through. When she's smashing the mirror and she says, no wonder the story keeps changing. One of the images of Superman is the old Superman costume with the underwear on the outside.
And her in her old costume, too.
And her in her old costume. That was something I really didn't kind of, to be honest, I didn't pick up until my second read through. And I think that, for me, was one of those things that locked in my head that she's figuring it out and she's seeing, the path. Now, as to her costume, you know what? I'm a big fan. I am a fan of this look. I think it fits for her. I always used to say, hey, no, I want the long pants. I want more of a bigger. I didn't want the bathing suit look. But again, I've completely made a complete turn on this with her because of some of, it was the different gladiator show movies I was watching and seeing how, if you're a gladiator, you have that armor over some of your vital organs, but you got to keep mobile. You got to keep flexible, and your speed is your greatest weapon. That is your greatest defense, is that you're not there when the blade strikes, not that you have armor to protect you from the strike. And Wonder Woman's fighting style, that fits her. So for me, a smaller armored look like this fits her, especially because it does have more of a rustic look to it. It does have, there is a bit of a grit to it. There is a little bit darker tint, and it's kind of, it goes back to, this, I see this is a really cool look for it, and I like this. I'm actually very happy with how they're going with how the costume and how they're going about it. And again, the fact that it's not just an arbitrary, artist changed the look. No, this is a conscientious decision that she's making. She's changing, she's going old school. She's pulling back on, an older type of armor style.
Jim, let's talk a little bit about Green Lanterns, because this is a book I was very, very interested in. Because these are two characters. Obviously, Simon Baz has been one. I've referenced it before. He's the one that kind of I wanted to see more of, because I started to really like the character when he was introduced. And then he just kind of got dropped, and I don't think they knew what to do with him. And that's okay. That happens, where there's just writers who just don't quite understand what to do with the character, and that happens with any character, where they just kind of drift into the background. But I was glad to see him back, because there's a lot of potential with him. Making this a buddy book with Power Ring, formerly Power Ring, was really a great maneuver, because you've got two characters that have some similarities, but some vast differences as well. Right out of the starting gate, I was intrigued by this. This is another example of an issue that I thought paid off a lot more than what I was expecting. I was expecting to like this. I wasn't expecting to love it out of the starting gate, only because I felt like I was going to get used to the team dynamic of the characters. I really love this one. I didn't realize until after my first read through that Jeff Johns wrote this. He's part of it with Sam Humphries. This was a good move, because it really set off the tone of, I think, at the core, what's great about Green Lantern stories. I really, really, I wanted a ring on. I also love that it reestablishes the Red Lanterns as a villain group. I think what's happened with the rings as it's gone on, too many of them became good guys.
Yeah.
And you've lost kind of this sense of uniqueness to them. Don't get me wrong, I loved Guy Gardner leading the Red Lanterns. I was a big fan of those stories. But I think what ends up happening at a certain point in time, you got to bring back a sense of danger.
Yeah.
And threat between them. Atrocitus coming back and Bleeze being with them. I hope we find out why. I'm ready for that piece.
That's the thing I want to know. Why is bringing back Atrocitus and the cat? Hey, I understand that's cool, but Bleeze being there, and you see the look. She kind of was a little bit more on the sinister side. So part of me wonders: is she completely there? Did Atrocitus do something to kind of kick her back into, basically bring her back to the dark side? Because it's, the thing that when a guy was leading and they were doing the whole Red Lantern comic and just they were making them more of good guys. I love the fact that it was there's that righteous rage. You can rage about something positive. You can have that anger and that fury over, against injustice and rage for the light. So I like the fact that there was that fact that they could bring the Reds to the positive side, but I gotta admit, I do love them as really nasty, evil, bad guys. So I'm very excited to see them come back, in a big way and come back hard and evil. So I'm excited about that. Now, the Baz and Jessica team up. That for me, I was like, I remember when we first started speculating, before I knew that it was these two, I was like, okay, Green Lanterns. I wasn't thinking these two. And then I find out it's these two. I'm like, wow, really? Oh, okay. I don't know what to expect. And when you get this buddy cop sequence and you get these two who basically, they're pretty much two rookies. Baz has got some time. He's got some adventures, especially with Green Lantern, with the Edge of Oblivion story. Baz does some stuff there, and he throws down and he shows he is a lantern, and Jessica, we've seen her step up as a lantern. So they've got moments, but they're still really green, no pun intended. But they're still rookies, and you see these two rookies together, and I think that for me was something I'm like, okay, let's see where this goes. Are we going to get interference from other lanterns? Is it going to be just these two? Are we going to, what's going to happen here? And I think that for me was, this was for me was that solid beginning, the solid building block of a story. And it was taking two characters that I was like, okay, yeah, these are kind of some cool characters. I like them. Let's see where they go with it. I think that for me is, I'm excited for this book. I'm looking forward to reading it. I don't know where it's going to go, other than there's going to be some mistakes along the way, but they're going to have to work together and fight through it. And I think that, for me, is a great hero story. When you have to, it's the gut check time. You got to push through the pain, and you got to make it happen. I think we're going to see a lot of that from these two.
Did that Guardian create a rainbow ring?
No, that's all the rings being released.
But he said it's locked in a sacred box, a mysterious ring, something new, something of his creation, something forbidden. So when he opens the box, you see a rainbow light come out of it, because it said that he created a mysterious ring, something new that's in the box, not rings, ring.
Oh, yeah, I did not.
So what did he create there? I'm like looking at that. I'm like, because to your point, you're right. All of the ring, it looks like all of the ring.
He created a rainbow ring.
Yeah.
So, but we already had the White Lantern, which is all the colors.
But it's not rainbow.
I know, exactly. That's why I'm like, what is this?
I don't know.
And did he destroy the Dominators that are attacking him by opening up the ring?
Yeah. A new power unleashed. That's what Atrocitus wants. Atrocitus is after that ring.
Right.
Because he's narrating that sequence, and I love that.
Well, and that was kind of neat, the fact that it was outlined in red, and
yes.
The whole time I didn't realize it was just something. Oh, okay, you're seeing it, and I didn't know who the narrator was, But then in the end, you think, oh, okay, that makes sense. It was outlined in red.
I like that the Simon Baz sequence jumped him right back into status quo where he was at previously for us. I liked that there's a sense of time passage. But, he's still being watched over and, everything's still in play the way that it was before. I liked that because to me, I've always enjoyed the Simon Baz story. So that sense of connection to that was really, really great.
Yeah, and I like the government's trying to get as much information as they can. For me, that rings true. You wouldn't just leave this like the other heroes. They initially have their secret identities, but with Simon, they had a way to exploit him. They had a way right from the beginning to kind of have some type of quote unquote control over him. Again, it was he had all the criminal charges against him, everything against his sister, his brother-in-law, all that stuff. Like, hey, we made that go away, but we had a deal. You had to tell us everything you know about the Green Lanterns. You have to keep us in the loop. You missed your check-in. I like that, the fact that he's like, hey, you missed your check-in. And it was that keeping control, because that is a very governmental type of thing to do. But it was a neat moment where the guy goes, hey, let me help you out as well. So you see that this person, he may be that government entity, he may be that government agent, but he's not a complete jerk, or at least he's trying to get Simon to trust him. I don't know yet if this is one of the good guys or if he's just being sneaky. Because again, I don't, when you're reading a comic book and you get the government agent who's wearing the dark suit and the dark tie, you can't trust him, kind of. You're like, I don't know. Maybe, those are always the guys that always get my radar going. He looks like he's a nice guy. He's doing something cool to help out Simon and his family. Is this just a ruse? Is he trying to just, get him to trust him to reveal something?
I love the shot of the Justice League. Man, that was cool. That was a great artwork shot by Ethan Van Sciver.
Oh, God,
of the whole Justice League. Just really, really great. We get to see that is, in fact, Diana's new outfit, that's what she's going to be wearing moving forward, which I'm really thrilled with because I think that's a cool outfit. The fusing of the lantern together I thought was really cool. I don't know, everything about this issue just really did what I wanted it to do. It gave me this sense of connection to Hal and to the Corps. You want that. It surprised me. In a lot of ways. The fusing of the lantern was a surprise. Atrocitus and the Red Lanterns, they weren't on my radar for this one. The Justice League reveal wasn't on my radar. It did everything well. It gave me a sense of their life outside of wearing the ring, which is also important because I want to sense that these are people, not just people who wear costumes. I want to sense that there's some reality to who they are. This was really a great example of how to do a first issue.
Oh, God, yeah. And that Justice League sequence, completely agree with you how cool that looked. But I especially love the look on both Simon and Jessica's face, especially Simon. He's got that grin on his face going, hey, wow. I like seeing that, kind of because he always he's very stoic, but this is the Justice League. He should have that kind of reaction. I thought that for me was a really cool moment of him just kind of letting down the seriousness, letting down, just embracing the moment of, oh my God, this is kind of cool.
Can we talk Aquaman? I really want to talk Aquaman because that was a book that I really loved and I really appreciated the artwork for. Because that's Aquaman. Part of the cool part of Aquaman is the sea, And my Kurt is a scuba diver. A good friend of ours is a scuba diver, and one of the things that I've always enjoyed about him is he's a photographer. He takes pictures underwater of his scuba shoots. He'll post some of them on Facebook and stuff like that, but over the years, some of those pictures have so much pop after they've been developed when you see them. So I've got this real sense of the majesty and beauty of the ocean underwater. I'm not a scuba diver. It's not my thing. I can appreciate it, though, especially with the fact that, when you see the pictures of it and all that, because, I love, an artistic approach. And, man, this book really did a great job of nailing in the first couple pages of what's really cool about Aquaman's world, especially when he's swimming around right at the beginning. This sense of majesty to that underground world, this wonder that's there, makes you want to go scuba diving. I mean, it's just that stuff is neat.
Something as simple. Well, not simple, but it's as basic as just that bubble effect. Now granted, that's not basic. That's very complicated and very, very talented, beautiful artwork. But it's just a simple notion of when he's blowing out, there's going to be the bubbles. But just the way they're put in, the way it flows through him, and when he's flying through, you see that massive backtail behind him of the turbulence behind him as he's swimming through the ocean. Those are stuff that I was like, man, that looks cool. It's recently I was in Italy and I took a lot of pictures of different mountain ranges and this and that. And as I'm looking at these pictures afterwards, it doesn't capture the majesty. And I was like, oh man, because when I'm looking at the picture looks cool. But when when I was there, you got this overwhelming, just like, oh my God, look at that mountain. That thing is huge. That is it was one of those awe-inspiring, just visual stuff that it didn't come across well on my camera. With the comic book, when you're looking at this very flat, it's two-dimensional, but they give it life. They give it just that majesty. And you really get you really do get this really cool look and just feel the massiveness that is the ocean. 2/3 of the planet, 97% of this global biosphere is the ocean. And I love the fact that they actually lay this out. They show you just how magnitude and how massive this actually is. And in the artwork, you kind of get that view. You kind of get that groove of it. And this was something for me that I've been really digging Aquaman. I've loved, since they did that relaunch of who he is, this whole concept of the Spindrift station, the Atlantean embassy. I love that. Mirrors her role with everything that's playing out and just how this is going. Like, man, this is awesome. These are cool Aquaman stories, and the fact that even in this issue they make reference to how people don't completely understand Aquaman. They think he talks to fishes. He doesn't talk to fish. And I love just how they kept playing off the little humor behind way people look at him. This for me was one of those solid, bam, this is a cool story, really continuing what was awesome before and further growing it.
Yeah, the faction piece was really, really cool for me, having like this sense of vastness to the ocean and that there are other groups that we aren't aware of. These aren't just one nation. It's the place is so vast that there would be multiple factions spinning off of all that. The idea, I love the cartoon showing of Aquaman there too. Ha ha, fishy. To the cultural references and things like that with the character. This really is getting back to the core of what's great with Aquaman. The sense that he is more than what he seems. I loved seeing the whole fight sequence, but then the moments with Mira were my absolute favorites at the diner. Seeing that diner sequence and this idea that I grew up here. There's something home about this. I go here to think. I go here to find comfort, to reconnect with who I am. And I think with these Rebirth issues being so much about these characters connecting with who we know them to be, those sequences are pretty critical, because if you look back at one of the consistencies we have in what we're digging about a wide variety of these issues are not just the action sequences. It's the quiet moments where, you know, there's some contemplation and thought and dialogue and cool hangout. Like, I want to go to that diner and hang out with Aquaman. That's a DC thing to me. It really is. There is a sense of, I don't know, these characters are accessible in a way that's different. And I think it's one of the things, I want to be careful I say this because it's not a slam on Marvel. It's not. There's a different sort of positivity to DC when it's done right that Marvel doesn't have, because of the way it was rooted in, always from the beginning, in reality, you know, and kind of a contemporary look to it. And I always liked the distinction between the two. It's not a knock. I'm a big Marvel fan, and I liked Marvel's being street level, if I'm making sense there. And I'm trying to say, I don't want to make this something, hey, man, Marvel. I've never been that guy. I've always loved Marvel just as much. I've liked and appreciated the distinction between the two. There's a certain kind of majesty to these characters, a certain sort of morality to them that should be there. And their reaction to real world events come from that morality in a way that's a little different than the Marvel characters. And it's one of the reasons why I think when these universes are at their best, when they embrace their identity instead of trying to be each other.
Oh, exactly.
I think that's where they really are strong. And that's more of what I want to see. I think it's one of the reasons why, like I mentioned, I really enjoyed Batman v Superman. It's a great movie. I can't wait for the Ultimate Edition. I've already pre-ordered it. So I'm excited to see the whole thing. But if there's one thing when I read these Rebirth issues that stands out for me, there's a light in any darkness in any of them. A strong, bright, vibrant light in every one of these issues. Like, I felt happy after reading every one of these. That doesn't mean that there wasn't a sense of danger, and there wasn't, like, you know, we talk about the Detective Comics, where there's this overwhelming squad that they're going up against, and there's a sense of danger there. But yet, there was that brightness in Batman's world. I mean, you know, that kind of thing is like, DC's getting it with these issues. Like, 9 of these things just got it. Every single one of them got it. It's that thing, that indescribable kind of, it's why I like doing a podcast about DC books. When these things are nailed, that positivity that comes out of some of them is really slick in a way that just kind of, which is a word I haven't used in the podcast in years, in a way that just really, really works. And it really, really struck me in these issues. I was really excited after reading all these. It's very rare that 2 a.m, I'm plowing through 5 comics and enjoying, and plowing through is not the right word. I enjoyed every minute with 5 comics at 2 a.m. after just waking up.
There's a lot of dun-da-da factors in all of these issues.
Yes.
And it wasn't just the Superman ones. We had that moment in Aquaman. We had that in Flash, Green Arrow, the Green Lanterns. We have a lot of that, that positive. Batman had a lot of positive, stuff with Batman. And that was, again, there was Batman fighting in, from the darkness, but fighting for the light. And this was something with the Aquaman issue. I really like the fact that, he didn't want to alert the surface dwellers about this potential threat. He didn't want to launch an army. He didn't want to do, because he knows things are very fragile. If people see him doing stuff, they know him as a hero. They're going to trust him. They're going to back off. Even though there's still the people out there, there's still a lot of people who don't completely trust him. There are some people in Gotham who still remember the Atlanteans invaded Gotham and buried most of Gotham, and a lot of people died. So they're kind of leery about this whole Atlantis thing. But they still do look him as a Justice Leaguer, and so they're kind of going to be safe. And I like the fact that he did. Normally, I'm the guy who's screaming, "Call for backup. Where's your backup?" This time, I'm like, okay, I understand why he's doing this. I understand why he's handling this on his own, but I like the fact that Mira was ready to go. She had, a strike team ready, not the full army, but the special team ready in case he needed the support. So she had the backup lined up, but they didn't. They waited for the call to actually launch it. And then they let the king do his thing. They let the superhero do his thing. And I thought that, for me, was a really cool distinction, because that's something at the end of the previous this Aqua run, they really were laying down that Mira's got this role. Arthur is the king of Atlantis, yes, but he is also Aquaman. He is also the hero on the surface. Mira's got her role, and Mira's got her job, and it's just laying out who everybody's going to do. Beautiful delegation of authority. It was a great, again, Team Aquaman dynamic. They're really building this culture for this Atlantean race. I thought that for me was something, this is doing something really cool. And I was like, man, I'm very happy. And then you get this offshoot group. And it's a new offshoot group, but you know what? It makes sense because the world is so massively huge that we wouldn't know about them yet. And I especially like this little bit about them. They're the ninth tribe. They refer to themselves as the Hadalin, which is an Atlantean word for creature that's at the bottom of the ocean, a bottom feeder. And I love the fact that they immediately said this is not a slur to Atlanteans. These creatures, they're noble because they toil eternally to keep the seas clean. And I love the fact that this is a group that this is why they're doing it. They're fighting for Atlantis. They're trying to protect what they think is right, by destroying the surface. And I thought that for me, again, that was a great way to introduce this team, introduce this group as not as these master monsters, but as this is the noble purpose to them. And I thought that for me, this was some really cool Atlantean culture.
That's all well and fine, dude, but they were rubbing fingers and flirting over chowder. And I loved every minute of that. And I'm really not diminishing what you're saying, but as you were saying all that, I'm like, yeah, that's all great and all. But dude, this chowder sequence is probably my favorite part of the whole doggone book. And I loved the whole thing. Don't get me, and everything you were saying, amen. So I'm really not diminishing what you're saying. I was kind of laughing as you're saying, I'm like, yes, but I want to talk about the chowder. I'm like,
every time I read chowder, I do read it like that, by the way.
Yeah.
I go chowder. I don't know why. I just always have.
All leading into Black Manta, which the ending of this was absolutely great. I love that this is the prologue. They're building to a big story. That was something that struck me too. So many of these issues seem to be builds to a larger arc. And I love that they were introductions to where those books are going moving forward. And not everyone did it that way, and that's okay. I didn't want them all to do the same thing, but I really liked that some of them, it was really clear these were the beginnings of something very, very special. The Flash.
Flash.
Man, did I really, really like this book. I will say on this one, the artwork took me a little bit to get used to at first, but then it started to have kind of a Scott Collins vibe to it, which started to really work for me. But it was one of the things where I was like, first, just because I was so used to the Flash artwork that we were getting for a while, that I'm like, oh, we're going in this direction now. But I liked the artwork. It just, that was something that did strike me with this book from the beginning. I was kind of like the artwork and the coloring. I think I had to get used to it a little bit. But then once I got into it, I started to really like it, and it started to feel a little bit more Scott Collins for me, if you know what I mean by that, in its style. And I've always liked a Scott Collins Flash book. I was a big fan of his work on there. So having that, I'm oversimplifying by saying Scott Collins on that, but that was where, when I started to click with that, I really started to enjoy the artwork and really enjoy what was being done here.
Yeah, no, art is one of those subjective things. And it was funny because you mentioned how it took you about a while to get the groove. And I was in the same boat as you. Because for me, like the Flash books and the Lantern books, I like a really bright, dynamic color.
Yes.
That's the kind of color palette I always like, and like the crisp lines and just that's the kind of art style I like with these books. So this really wasn't that. And it was funny because when you have this initial opening page, I'm thinking, oh, okay, so this is a flashback. They're showing, Barry's death. And then when you realize, no, this is a modern Vic. There's Barry right there. Like, oh, okay. So this is, that was the first moment when I'm like, okay, let me look at this and let me start seeing what this art style is. And it is different for me, but I gotta tell you, it does look cool. So I'm not, so that's one of the things where if you got a cool art style, I'm willing to throw the notions I had in my head out the window if you give me something good. And they definitely gave me something really cool with the look to it. And on top of that, this was an absolute fabulous story. I was like, this was, again, another one of those, yes, we're hitting, Flash is hitting the ground running, and that was something I was like, okay, let's get going here.
And you had to give me a sense of hope, too. Like who Barry is and some positivity to it. I loved the sequences with Dad. I liked that they went to that and kind of brought him in and had that relationship of Dad being kind of a friend and advisor and that type of thing. That all worked for me. I liked when he was bringing pizza to the kid. That was kind of cool. That was where the artwork started to work for me. I'm like, okay, this isn't about going dark and dreary. This is really, we're going to have a kind of a nice blending. The Infantino theater having that kind of wink and a nod, but that he was early for the date.
By a day.
Yes, that was really fantastic. I really enjoyed that whole sequence of events. This one was cool because it tied into the Rebirth issue, where we're kind of seeing everything from Barry's perspective leading up to it. And I was glad they chose to do this with this one. Give us a little history of Barry, bring us up to speed on him, bring us up to speed on his kind of visions of Wally, then take it to what happened in Rebirth where Barry connected with remembering him, and let us see it from that side. I'm a fan of this kind of thing because it was a really important event. But then what they did was they took us from that to then what happened afterwards. A little bit more depth on what happened to Wally. And, Wally losing Linda and why Wally doesn't go to see Iris right away was something that Iris, listen, I can't go through another person not remembering me who is close to me, and she's not going to. And he references the fact that Barry refers to as a friend, which means Wally has memories of the relationship being something more. But even Wally's memories are a little bit disjointed because of what happened to him, and we know that from the story. So I like that these are two characters. They have more memories than they should have, but not everything has clicked, and for two different reasons. I love that sequence of this. It added more to the mystery. It was a showing of elements of that Rebirth story, but here are the bonus scenes. Here are bits that you didn't get to see, and now we're going to take you further from Barry's perspective on that. I loved all that. I love that there was a reference to the fact that Wally can create his suit from the Speed Force. Barry's like, I forgot I can do that. That was awesome.
That was, I got to agree with you, man. I really dig that especially because I love the fact that you've been using the ring, and it's just that, again, there's more stuff that Barry doesn't remember. Mm-hmm. And you mentioned it before where he says, she's a friend. Iris is a friend, not anything beyond it. And I thought that, again, I'm like, this is some neat stuff because what does Wally remember? What does Barry remember? And again, really great, everything you're saying about how he the pain that it hit him with when Linda didn't remember him, and the fact that he went through it. And I thought that was from the Rebirth issue, that was one of those tear jerkers, when you see him going, oh, come on, you got to remember me. And she doesn't remember it. Just that pain, that gut wrenching pain. You're like, oh man, poor Wally, man, dude, and the fact that he didn't want to go through that again, I thought that for me, those were some really cool moments. But then again, it leads to further and I love that side-by-side panel.
Yes.
When it shows Wally on one side, Barry's on the other side. Barry saved me. Wally thinks I saved him. That's twice he's given me life, that I brought him back. The greatest life a kid could ever have. But really, Wally brought me back. I love the fact that they're going back and forth, each one saying the other saved me. Each one saying the other did this for me. I was like, man, that for me, that's the Flash. Those are that positive energy and just that boom. So I got that same type of feeling, even though it's not the look that I would normally have in my head. Right here, right on this page, I'm still getting that positive energy. I'm still getting that pop. I'm still getting that majesty that is the Flash. Now we've got two running around. This was a really great rebirth of the Flash. And again, then going into the back.
Wait, hold on. Before you go, because we got to step back a little bit.
Okay.
Because they're talking about that whole ring bit, but I'm going to talk to Batman. He's probably already on the case. Don't try to take this on alone, Wally. If you discover anything or you're in trouble, you don't have to say it, Barry. I'll find you. We don't say goodbye because we know we don't need to. This is where the artwork won me over. I was like sitting here in the sequence. I'm like, man, that's a really positive moment there that just really popped out for me. I'm like, this art style's telling a story. It's working well. The dialogue's working. Everything's getting for me. As I started going through, I started feeling the groove of what I like about The Flash. And I'm like, this is a lot of... I say the Scott Collins art, and I don't want to reference that I think this is cookie cutter to Scott Collins' work. But the thing with Scott Collins' work, it took me a little while to get used to, too, because it's kind of a unique style. It's got a unique flavor to it. So once you start getting used to, like, his sense of telling Flash stories, you really grow... Like, Scott Collins is somebody who I look back and go, and that's one of the artists that made a big mark on the Flash storytelling for me. So this is one of those where I'm like, yeah, I'm getting this. It's a different sort of vibe, kind of like when I first got used to Scott Collins' art, and that's where I'm really going with that. And I got used to it quickly to the point where when I turned that page and I saw the split panel with the two of them, you're absolutely correct in everything you were saying, taking us to the Batcave. And I'm sorry, go where you're going to go with the Batcave now, because
I'm going to say
I want to talk to you.
100%. I love the fact that, this shows him going to the cave, because that was the one thing Wally was, before Barry pulled Wally out, he was like, you got to go to Batman, talk to him, and, once again, Batman was on the case already, because we saw that at the end of Rebirth. And I love the fact that, when the way Barry looks at Batman, everyone thinks of Bruce as a detective, but to me, he'll always be a scientist. He uses forensic evidence to solve cases. So I've always felt we are kindred spirits. For me, that was a great statement, because you think about Barry Allen, the Flash, he's the light, he's the positive, he's the hope, and you got the Dark Knight, and you wouldn't think these two, but they are actually very kindred spirits. And just the same thing with like how Hal Jordan's the cop, Barry Allen's the forensic scientist for the police department. So that's why those two are getting, I love how these different heroes have these same type of mindsets, how they have these connections that on the surface you wouldn't think about it. Batman and Superman, they're light and dark, but they both have that same no-kill code. They both have that same, doing this for a higher purpose. Both have that same type of mindset where they're willing to sacrifice themselves for the others. The needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few and the one. That those are the kind of mindset. And I love just the fact that Barry recognizes that this is who Bruce is, and those two work together. They're already looking at this. And I thought, for me, it was great how they both wanted to say, let's not bring everybody into this, but neither one of them really, they didn't want to come across as being about secrets. They don't, they don't want to, Bruce loves secrets, but he hates to lie. I thought that was a really cool just analogy of who Bruce is. I thought this whole sequence was just one of those, man, this is awesome.
Yeah, I like that. This showed a sense that Barry and Bruce at this stage know each other really well, and they're friends and comrades, and you have friends like that where you and I have been very lucky over the years. And it's one of the things, it's one of the reasons why I think we've got such a strong friendship. We value the friendships that we've made with people over the years. We value the differences that we have with the people that we're friends with. Case in point, you and I have done this for what? We're going on our 11th, this is heading towards 11 years of doing this. That's where we're at right now on this. And the fun of doing this is our differences. This would not be a fun podcast if you and I were identical twins. I really like the fact that you see things differently than I do. I like the things where I'm baffled by where you come up with things. I like that you catch things, though, that I don't and see them in a different way. Case in point, the Detective Comics issue, where you saw something potentially from Batwoman's dad I didn't see. I don't know if that's going to be the case or not, and you weren't saying that either. You were kind of like, maybe it is him. And I was like, wow, that's brilliant. I never saw that. That stuff's fun, and it only happens with your differences. I love that Barry and Bruce on the surface seem so different, but they have those commonalities too. And that's something that's about our friendship. We've got some very distinct different qualities between the two of us that we both like and admire and thrive on. But we also have some similarities that we connect with as well, and interests and things that keep us together. And I love that kind of feel in DC. That's a DC thing for me. These guys are friends. Justice League, when I grew up, was always about these guys being friends. I enjoyed seeing them in the Justice League fighting as much as I enjoyed those moments when they would go out on a double date. And those were things that are really important to blend in nowadays, to give the characters a sense of reality and three-dimensional nature. So that sequence in the cave was huge for me. Really, really well-written Batman. I think totally reminiscent of who he is in his own book. giving this sense of, you're right, there's going to be characters that are going to figure out the whole thing. I'm going to be curious to how much they remember and how much they discover, if you know what I mean by that.
Oh, yeah.
And well, I'm very curious to how that's going to work, but definitely the Trinity and Barry are going to know.
And I think they'll have the if you remember from Quantum Leap, the Swiss cheese effect.
Yes.
Where I think that's what we're going to get. And for those who never saw Quantum Leap, it was
great reference.
Time travel, kind of show. And he would go back, but he would have the Swiss cheese effect was basically his memories. It would be kind of solid, but there would be pieces missing. There would be kind of like the holes in the Swiss cheese. And that's what I think we're going to get with these characters. I don't think we're going to have 100% across the board where they remember everything. There's going to be bits and parts that they don't remember, and maybe some of that will come back. And I think they're going to kind of leave some openings to fluctuate with the storytelling. So I think that's a good way to go with it. But it's again, this is something that I'm kind of curious and excited over, just the potential of who's going to know, what are they going to know, where is it going to play out.
Yeah, that's the part that I think is going to be really interesting to me too, is how all this is going to play out. I like that it's the start of something, not an immediately jumping into it. I want to build. I like this. I like that it's not just this storyline that's building, though, because then we've got at the end what looks like to be the Reverse Flash or Zoom, or because it says lightning strikes twice. I don't know what that's going to be. I can't wait to see where this storyline is going to go. I like that there's a lot going on in this book. They set up a lot. They did some great service to make you want to go and read the Titans book, while at the same time making you really interested in reading the Flash. I honestly, as a fan, I loved the fact that these 9 issues made me geek out. Usually, when we do this podcast, one of the things that is pretty reminiscent, we each, kind of cherry pick some books that we really just had a lot of fun with. And we a lot of times leave out some books that were interesting to us because there's some ones that we key in on Spotlight on. I genuinely wanted to talk about all 9 of these. Like, I was really giddy and excited for this. I love the direction right now. I love that these are measured releases. I like that we're not getting 25 books at a time. I like that, we start off with 4. We got another 5. I like that each week I was left wanting more. Like, I'm like, wait, there's not another Rebirth book? I want to read more. And that was really my experience with all this. Every moment I really enjoyed. I wanted to go back and reread these almost instantly, every single one of them. I love, because these characters, the whole universe means a lot to me. I'm a DC fan. I love these characters. I grew up with them. I love that I got that vibe for these. And I have high hopes that, not everybody's going to have the same vibe or feel that I did with these. I get that. I'm hoping for some disenfranchised fans, though, that maybe their favorite character clicks with them again. You know what I mean? It's like that Flash fan that lapsed away. Maybe they try this out and they're like, oh, Barry and Wally together again. Cool. And there's this mystery surrounding what, who knows and who doesn't know. And these are my guys. They know. They remember the things that I remember. I hope that brings them in. Green Arrow, same thing. Green Lanterns. I hope for people that have stepped away from some of these books that, maybe they don't like the whole line the way you do or I do. For me, and I don't know if you're in the same boat I'm in, but all 9 issues of these was just kind of like, I could not be happier with them. I really found myself just really excited about the whole thing.
Oh, God, man, dude, I was pumped and excited for all of it. This was one of those, it was funny because we were only going to talk about the initial in the first week, and then, your scheduling and my scheduling kind of got, crazy, like, hey, can we wait until, Thursday to record? And my reply was, yes, I can do more reading, because I was very excited to read more of the Rebirth, and that was something that right from the get-go, this is some cool stuff here. I bought everything digitally without even thinking twice about it. Plus I still got my paper copies coming. So I'm getting multiple versions of this, and I'm remotely not caring because this has been such an enjoyable read for me that when you're sitting there reading going, this is awesome, I want to read this again, they're hitting it right. And we didn't know what Rebirth was going to be about. We didn't know what they were going to do. This is what I was hoping they were doing. This is what I'm glad they're doing. It is a rebirth. They're not throwing away the past. They're not just starting fresh. They're taking everything what worked and accentuating what worked, and bringing in a little bit of the old, bringing in a little bit of new, throwing it together and giving us this really cool story. So I'm very happy, very excited, looking forward to next week.
It's exceeding my expectations. And I actually love the fact that, like, I texted you today. I didn't know what you read and what you didn't, because we had said, as long as we're waiting another day, if we get a chance to read some of these, let's include some of them. Maybe we'll talk casually about them. When I texted you, I was laughing because my first thing was, I managed to read all of them last night. If you read some of them, let me know, and we'll talk about the ones you did. You're like, I read them all too. Which was great, because we did not make a plan to do that. We just kind of like, whatever you get to, great. So you obviously had a similar experience to what I did. It's kind of like, listen, I can't put these down. Let's keep going. And that's great. This is fun.
Well, I jumped on action and detective. And after I got rid of it, I'm like, I got to keep going. It was I had to keep going. I could not stop. That was something that was just, you get that, you talked about it. You get that energy going, and you're like, man, this was cool. What's next? Give me more. What's next?
But that's what great comics are to me. This is one of the experiences that I look for. It's one of the reasons why do we do the show the way that we do. We've never had an edict of having to be positive or anything like that. I honestly want to talk about the things that I'm really enjoying on this show, because that's half the fun of reading comics. That's always been my experience. It's really special when a universe starts clicking like this, though, because this is rare. You don't get that very often. And if you look back at the history of our show, we don't talk about every single book. I mean, we just don't. I mean, it's not one of those things. We didn't make a plan at the start of this to talk about all 9 books. We were just kind of like, let's talk about the ones we enjoyed and go from there. We're kind of like, look, I really want to talk about all of them. So that's cool. I mean, and I hope for a kickoff, the first 2 weeks has been a great first 2 weeks. I hope they all feel like this for me. I don't know. I can't predict if they're going to. And honestly, we'll talk about the books that we really enjoy along the way. And I find it interesting to talk about the ones I don't, if that comes across. I don't know where this is going to go, but man, right out of the starting gate, they kick off. I hope it does what it's supposed to do, though. Because here's the thing. You and I were already into the New 52 and enjoying that. So transitioning us to adding in more of the elements that we loved before the New 52 were pretty easy sells, because we were already on board. I'm hoping that it's bringing in some new readers. Did you hear that there was like some record number for the Green Arrow book?
Really? Awesome.
Yeah. The Rebirth issue had like a record number, and I'm thrilled, because I think that was a really well written issue. So I'm hoping that what I always get, I don't want to say I get worried about that. What's sometimes a danger with that is that initial number's inflated, because, people just kind of grab multiple copies because the initial part of the event. I don't think that's a thing as much anymore, though. I'm hoping that means that we just had, maybe some TV crossover people, that started like, hey, I want to read Green Arrow now and all that kind of thing. I don't know. I just, honestly, I was thrilled to see that Green Arrow, which is a unique title to have that kind of thing, did gangbusters by today's standards. It wasn't up to what it should be for, previous standards, but I liked that it was a standout as far as being a book that sold more than expectations. And I hope that's reminiscent of this going forward, because I think that's cool, if we start bringing in some readers. I hope some of them are people that haven't been reading comics in a while. Just because if you're just shifting around the current comic audience, I think that's a missed opportunity. I'm hoping from this that we get some new readers, some people, even if they're not new to comics, just some readers that I stepped away for a while. I kind of just got burnt out or whatever. I'm excited to get back in. Let me read some of these, and I hope that they come back. That, to me, would be a big victory from this if we get some new readers back in again. I'm excited. I'm really, really excited, and I'm hoping that this pays off in that way.
Reaching melting point. Not sure we can make it.
What are made of?
Okay.
Yeah. No, let's just keep going. I used to cut that stuff out, but we can say marble mouth. I want to remind everyone about our show website. That's ragingbullets.com. We give you news on when the episodes are going to be released, what the content's going to be on those episodes. It feeds into our Twitter. We also have a Facebook group. The Facebook group is actually just a tremendous community that, honestly, I'm overwhelmed by the amount of content on there. And we really, at this point, can't take credit for it. It's the community that is running it over there. And I love that. I love that the community outgrew us. And it's kind of an interesting thing when that happens because I enjoy going there now as a member of the community because we're doing the podcast. So I don't have the time to be as active a member as I would like to be, but those guys are running the show over there. It's their house. And I love visiting their house and seeing what they've built there. It's a fun place to go. They're constantly posting news about all of comics, not just DC. DC's obviously a main focus because a lot of the fans came there originally from this show. But I love that it's branched out. So they're talking about Marvel news. They're talking about independent news. They're talking about TV shows and film and games and you name it. It's being thrown out there. Doctor Who's thrown out there every so often. It's really a pop culture group now. And that's due to the great quality people that are there. So I always shout that out on the show because I'm just a big fan of how friendly that community is, and I think it's the quality of the people that are there. So my hat's off to them. We can't take credit for that. They can. And I love that it grew beyond. We have a Facebook fan page where we release all of our show episodes. We are on Google+. I have a PlayStation Network account. However you want to connect with us, please do. We love having you a part of the show. We have a show voicemail line. It's 1-440-388-4434 or Dr. Norge on Skype. Raging Bullets at iCloud.com is our email address. Actually, the ragingbullets at gmail.com still works. It feeds to that. So feel free to send us an email too. I honestly prefer voicemails because we are an audio medium. So it's always great for a chance for your voice and personality to come out on the show. But if you'd rather send an email and you want to be a part of the podcast, I love having your thoughts. Rebirth issues, agree, disagree with what we were talking about today? Is there something we missed that you wanted to point out? Some kind of theory. We threw out a lot of theories. What do you have theory-wise? We'd love to hear more from you on these books and what they're... I'm particularly interested if there's anybody that was a lapsed fan that picked up a book that they haven't been reading in a while and connected with it. Why? What was it that was... Because I can't speak to that experience. Jim and I have been reading these books. What brought you back? What did you like about it? What was it that connected with you? I'm interested in that because this is only a success if it draws in new readers. And if somebody's listening to this and they're like, I stepped away for a while and man, that, Flash book or that Green Arrow book or that Batman book or something like that brought me back in. I want to know what it is. And I'd love to hear more of that because that's an interesting part. This is an experiment. Anytime they do something like this, they have an intention. They have no way of knowing if it's going to work or not. I'm glad they're trying it. And I hope that it did bring in some lapsed fans. So I'd love to hear from you on that. And we love having you guys part of the show. We are sponsored once again by DCBService.com and InStockTrades.com. Jim, DCBService.com's got what going on?
Bundles, 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 bundles. We have 3 separate Rebirth bundles covering all of the new Rebirth issues within them. Each of these bundles 50% off. On top of that, they're continuing their Vertigo support. All 8 of the Vertigo issues, 50% off. All 8 for only $15.92. Plus, they got a really cool special going on with bundling of the variant covers for all 43 of the DC Rebirth issues. 45% off, only $74.92 for all the variant covers. If you collect the variant covers like I do, this is a great way for it. But wait, there's more. Just in time for Christmas. Christmas with the Joker. Based on the Batman animated series, you get a Christmas with the Joker action figure. Comes with a little tree, some candy canes, a little elf. It looks cool. It looks hysterical. It's being added to my Christmas decoration, right from the start. That is 32% off. Only $19.04 for the Joker.
I also want to shout out once again that they are a digital partner. And whether you do mydigitalcomics.com or Comixology, link those accounts to your DCB service account. It doesn't cost you anything more. It helps out our show sponsor, but it also gives you 5% of those purchases towards your DCB service order, which adds up. And this is an expensive hobby. We love this hobby. Like any hobby that you have, every hobby is expensive, right? I mean, it's kind of one of those things. I'm a gamer. That hobby's expensive too. Every hobby's expensive. The nice part about these deals, not only do you get the discounts there, but for any digital purchases, you're getting credit that you can use at DCBService.com. I think that's way cool. InStockTrades.com. I mentioned the deals of the week earlier. I do want to shout out that they always do deals on latest releases too. Superman Wonder Woman trade paperback volume 3, 45% off, only $9.34. They have top seller number 2, Kingdom Come, the 20th anniversary deluxe edition hardcover. 45% off, only $21.99. If you don't have a collected edition of this volume, I'm a big fan of Kingdom Come. I cannot recommend it enough. Check that one out. Thank you, DCBService.com and InStockTrades.com for supporting our show. Our next episode, we're going to talk about, Jim, what is it? Rebirth. More Rebirth. We're going to talk more Rebirth next week. And hopefully, I'm honestly hoping that the next batch of issues just as exciting, because that part, it really does have me salivating. I'm excited for more. So we will see you then.
Bye.
On November 13th, Sean Whalen was asked to stop constantly talking about comic books. That request came from his wife. Deep down, he knew she was right, but he also knew that someday he would find someone that would talk to him. With nowhere else to go, he appeared at the home of his childhood friend Jim Segulin. Sometime earlier, Segulin's boss had requested that he shut up about his comic books and never speak of them again. Can two grown men put out a DC Comics podcast without driving each other crazy? It's Raging Bullets, the DC Comics fan podcast. With Sean Whalen as Dr. Norge, and Jim Segulin as the Sensei of the Whatnot and the Duke of You-Know. It's a spoiler podcast, so they will go in depth into the plot line, story twists, and whatnot of the comics they are reviewing. So if you haven't read the books, you may want to come back later so you may better enjoy the show.